Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the final round of the VCO ProSim Series for 2021. Just a short 4-round championship for you this year, but it has been incredibly intense in the LMP2 car, and this very much is the pinnacle of what we show here on VCO. You can catch racing every single pretty much day of the week here on VCO, whether it be our community races or this very much pinnacle of the World Championship that we like to call on VCO, as well as our studio shows. Now, we like to try different things on VCO. We like to push the boundaries, and we have the semis, of course, coming up at the end of the year. Make sure you've got your vote in 14 categories now, and we'll talk a little bit later about the 14th category that was announced just a few moments ago. We are 1 hour earlier today because of the World EX Championship, which it is finishing its series tonight on the VCO Esports platforms, and therefore we've moved a little bit earlier to make sure we don't clash with them. So once we're over, switch over to their feed, their stream, and follow their final round of the championship in our Factor 2 in those weird and wonderful electric cars. Today's broadcast is obviously brought to you by Racebot TV with Hugo Luis on the production channel, and on in front of the screen as commentators, myself, Ben Colson-Juris, George, Lewis and Ujana join us this evening, and as they have done before. And let's start with Arjuna.
You got it.
We were having a discussion about pronunciations of names just beforehand, and that's completely thrown me. Arjuna. We've seen lots of different teams taking the top step of the podium tonight, but really one team has stood out above the rest over the whole course of the 3 rounds so far.
Yeah, Max Benecke, Chris Lulham, very much dominant in this 2021 VCO ProSim Series. Both of them lead their respective championships, the Pro Driver category, the Esports Driver category. One hand on the trophy as well. We did the calculations coming into this one. With a maximum of 53 points on offer, if Benecke finishes 17th or higher in his heat, he'll win the Esports Driver category. In the Pro Drivers, Chris Lulham has a bit of a harder task. He's got to finish 14th.
Absolutely, but there are plenty of people, Lewis, out there to try and stop the flow, stop the consistency that Redline have had this year. We saw when we did the first season of ProSim, Benecke having a real struggle, having different teammates, initially having Max Verstappen as a teammate, but ultimately kind of lost his cool. It's all gone his way, though, so far this year.
Yeah, I distinctly remember Snetterton from that season. I remember him having a couple of issues in that race and then returning to the pit lane and pulling out of it. It just didn't go the way. But in seasons when they're so short, especially in a season like this, just 4 rounds from start to finish, it requires that consistency. And clearly, Max Benecke, he's cleared his mind from last season. He's got rid of it. He's teamed up with Chris Lulham, and it's not so much they've just been dominant in this championship. They're leading by a country mile, and it's not just because of their speed. It's because of their consistency, the relentless consistency that they've brought to the table. Whilst other teams have won, they've always been first or second in the heat race and the bonus. It is unrelenting how much they are just always there.
George, who is the likely drivers to stop their momentum? Presumably, Redline teammates are not going to be the ones to stop Max and Chris's momentum, but there are others out there that potentially could.
Yeah, there's plenty of teams, I think, that have shown some really, really good pace. I mean, round 2, when we went to Hockenheim Ring, we saw the likes of Commander Esports take the top spot, as well as BS Competition. Plenty of capable names that have the ability to win races. Charlie Collins, of course, who's still very much in the title fight, I'm sure will be looking to certainly throw down against the likes of Maximilian Benecke, and of course, partner in crime, Mitchell de Jong as well. Plenty of top names there to fight off the Team Redline guys, and they're going to throw caution to the wind. They've got to go all in tonight, and that's what you've got to do to win championships.
Significant margin, as Arjuna said at the start of the show, for Benecke and Chris Lulham leading the championship, but there's lots and lots of guys mathematically that could still stop them. So make sure you tune in. We're going to have 2 heats and then a bonus race. This is how the format works out. We've had over 180 drivers take part over the last couple of weeks, usually over 70 cars. That's why we had to split our championship into 2 heats because we had so many entries. If you remember last year, we were up to about 40 odd cars, and to have 70 entries per week is just quite incredible, really. One esports racer partners with one real world pro, and we have 2 separate championships for that. And Lewis, it's not just about points that they score, there is also a decent prize pot on offer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. $16,500 has already been distributed across the season up to this point, but there's still plenty on the line for tonight. $5,500. We've got a championship bonus as well up for offer tonight. There's so much money on the cards, and that's why they come here. We've spoken before. Of course, we get 3 races over the night. We get Heat 1 and Heat 2, which is always fantastic. Those are the ones where the points are mostly played out, but it's that bonus race where we're talking of the money, and that's where our eyes normally go when it comes to the excitement.
It is true that the focus between certain teams and cars has been on the bonus race for the money rather than the championship. Of course, they need Arjuna to get into the bonus race first. How does that work out?
So top 15 from each of the heats will qualify their way into the bonus race, and really the majority of the points are paid out in the heats. 35 goes to the victor, all the way down, of course, to very little points to finish down in 15. But the prize money, that's what gets paid out in the bonus race. There are still some points on offer, 15 for the victor there. Of course, we're in the final race of the season, so it's basically about the prize money here and making sure that you walk away with a little bit of cash in your pocket after 4 incredible races over the month of November.
Yeah, and to throw into the confusing mix of points, there is actually also a couple of points for pole position. So if we go into that bonus race with a gap over 18 points between our drivers, then the championship will be done. If it's less than 18, not 15, because there's those 3 points for qualifying on pole, then we still have a championship fight on our hands, and of course the money to be won in the bonus race as well. Now, George, big names entering tonight. We've seen already on Twitter some of the drivers announcing themselves. Romain Grosjean's not with us, but he's watching. Evening, Romain. Hope you're feeling well. Plenty of teams, plenty of drivers from his team in there. But an incredible name joins us tonight.
Yes, and I have to say, from an F1 background myself, this is quite a hefty one, I have to say, and you guys are all going to enjoy this one. Max Verstappen, ladies and gentlemen, makes his ProSim Series debut this season, and he is going to be joining us here tonight. Incredible, and teaming up alongside Dominic Hoffman as well. So I've got to say, what a partnership there for that squadron. They're going to be absolutely relentless. So obviously, Max coming off the back of another championship battle in Formula One, battling with Lewis Hamilton in what can only be described as probably the closest championship fight in the modern era of Formula One, I would say.
And to put this into context, Max has been travelling the world the last couple of weeks. Mexico, then up to Brazil, then over to Qatar. Huge amounts of air miles, huge amounts of focus required from F1 drivers to just compete at that level, to be in that environment. No rest at all from really Formula One over the last 3 weeks. And he's leading the championship, and he chooses to spend our Tuesday evening with us here at VCO. Massive thank you to Max for joining us. Really cool, and hopefully we might even get a chance to chat with him if he is successful. Other names, Lewis, that join us tonight?
Well, obviously we've got the likes of TK, of Danny Morad, plenty of other drivers up and down the grid, and we'd be here all evening if we're going to be listing them off. And to be fair, we are going to be here all evening listing them off, because that's the point of the racing. Plenty of great names up and down from the sim world and from the real world. That's obviously the point of the series, and I love seeing it. I do hope the likes of TK, who has done a couple of rounds before, does a little bit better this round than has done previously. Hopefully gets inside that top 15 in the heat race, and we can see them again racing in the bonus.
And 2 returnees from last year as well. Sergio Sette Camara, the Formula E driver, joins us in his debut for the season 2 alongside Flavio Dantes. And we also have Bruno Spengler back with us after presenting the BMW Sim Live program over the weekend. He's obviously got his esports bug back. And Spengler will be in the BS competition car as he was last season. Remember, he was the IMSA Invitational Champion when we were stuck in lockdown. He is a quick peddler on iRacing. One other thing to remind you of, We spoke about the prizes, we spoke about the prize money and the points, but there is also a steering wheel on offer. The LMP2 Inato steering wheel. More than €1,000. Looks exactly like the steering wheel found in the LMP2 car that these guys will be driving tonight. And thank you very much to Inato for donating that prize. Right, I think we're getting close to racing time, aren't we?
Yeah, I believe so. So without any further ado, as we head into Heat 1, take it away, guys. I believe first up we have Barnard Jr. All the very best, chaps.
Track selection was between Interlagos and Sebring, and unsurprisingly, Max Verstappen decided he did not want to race at Interlagos, having already raced at Interlagos and had a little bit of controversy in Interlagos, and so he got himself on Twitter to get the Sebring vote, and here we are. Of lots of real-world racing, the 24 Hours of Sebring happened last weekend for the Creventic Series. I think the Creventic Series were also racing in the virtual world, weren't they, Arjuna?
They were indeed, and what a day it was for BMW, right? The first full 24-hour showcase for the BMW M4 GT3. Lots of data gathered as they work to the delivery of that car to the customers for next year, when it will go racing across the globe in so many great races. Of course, also announced just this past day that the M4 GT4 will have a new car that will be delivered in 2023. Plenty of exciting things for BMW. And I love that we're at Sebring, because for BMW Sim Live, which I got to be a part of, iRacing had a two-part finale that started here on pole position, and who controlled heat number one, or I should say race number one, Gianni Vecchio, redline finish 1, 2, 3, and 4. Incredible stuff.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. And Gianni is the guy, kind of the guy that really needs to find form, because racing with Enzo Benito was in championship contention really until he found himself in the gravel trap at Hockenheim at the very least. But one of those guys at the very head of the field, and unfortunately we've seen Enzo being as fast as anybody, but when he's handed the car over to Gianni Vecchio, it always seems to have gone slightly backwards in comparison. And I suppose this is partly because of the way it's set out, isn't it, Arjuna? You've got Enzo actually in the race of the real world races, because he has done some racing in the real world last year in a single-seater championship in Italy, and whereas Gianni is racing the very best in the world in sim racing, so kind of an unfair comparison perhaps.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the series, right, is that we've got the crossover. And speaking of crossovers, let's quickly talk about the esports standings before we get into the grid for today's race. As mentioned, it was Max Benecke, $1,800 already in his pocket, leads the charge. All he's got to do is finish 17th or higher in heat number one to be crowned the 2021 VCO ProSim champion. Charlie Collins, Gianni Vecchio, Josh Rogers, the defending champion Josh Rogers back and forth. Still plenty to play for, but it's Benecke in charge and in control.
And Peter Berryman there in 5th position, just become a world champion as well in the last round of the Dallara Championship on iRacing. Big names, a world champion in Josh Rogers multiple times, Peter Berryman there as well. Gianni Vecchio perhaps finding himself in a position surrounded, as we've spoken about, by people who have got incredible championships to their names. And perhaps thanks a little bit to Enzo Benito's performance, finding himself 3rd in the championship. But as I said at the start of the show, incredibly close between 2nd and further down. Here's the grid then. Benecke has the pole position by nearly 0.2 of a second over the 72 Apex Racing and Maxime Brent. Luke Bennett in the 59 Redline, and then Peter Berryman in the 50 Apex Racing. Thomas Tahala, Kova Esports, great qualifying for them in 5th, and then Moreno Siraka in 6th.
Watch out for Brienne on the outside of the front row. Goes quick in an LMP2 car, especially here at Sebring. Jeremy Boutou, Fraser Williamson, row number 4 with Ryan Barnard, Julien Soenen completing the top 10. Oscar Mangan for Core Sim Racing and Sim Racing Wiki will be alongside the Greek Paschalis Gurgis for Coanda Simsport.
Tube in 13th position, Artur Melgar for ProStar Racing in 14th, Julien Kesselt in 15th for BS Turner. I wonder if we get to see that nice livery. Vecchio only qualifying in 16th spot, outside that top 15, qualifying 0.7 back. And then we have RAG Esports number 8 car. That was featuring pretty well actually last time out, and David Williams in the Team VRS 31.
Yuri Kastorp in 19th alongside Jarl Tyne with Ben Snemthi. Pablo Lopez, who debuted in real-world competition this past weekend in some autocross in his native Spain, 21st and 22nd. Nick Ludecki not paired with Braden Eves, but with another driver on the road to Indy. We'll see that driver pairing later on today with the Fordzilla number 14 in 24th position.
Great to see another Fordzilla entry this time out. BS Competitions number 7 is 25th. Then we have Riccardo Ferreri in the 79-26th. Flavio Dantes, he shares with Sergio Sette Camera, 27th position. Another BS competition down in 28th. Haupt Racing 29th. And then Vladimir qualified for the Love 4.6 Thrustmaster car in 30th, with Satellite Racing's Cy Andre not getting a time down at the back of the field.
I thought you were going to try the name there of the 46.
Ozaretskovka, or is the I think the wife that will take over that car. I'm pretty sure they're husband and wife,
yes,
rather than brother and sister.
No, they are. They are.
It's a bit awkward if you say they're husband and wife and they are brother and sister. That would not be good. But it's great. They're a great supporter of our VCO Pro Sim. They've been with us the last round as well, and they not necessarily feature at the top of the standings, but they are great supporters. I'm really keen to keep an eye on the number 70 Team Redline down in 16th position. Gianni Vecchio needs to make up serious ground to give Enzo Benito a good chance in that second half of the race. 20-minute race, pit window for just a couple of laps it will be here at Sebring, and then we'll get our second drivers in. Expect Vecchio to come in early as possible.
Absolutely, but I think ultimately it's Benecke in control of his own destiny. Victory here will secure him the 2021 VCO Pro Sim Championship, and we are racing in the Sunshine State.
Pretty spread out start going into the first turn. Side by side, the 21 dives down the inside, so Thomas Dahler making a better start. We've never seen Kova this high up so early on in a race, and he has the inside line for 4th position. I think he's trying to get round Peter Berryman. Oh, and there's big contact, I think, between the two of them. Berryman's been spun around, and that means that the rest of the pack have to try and avoid him. Jarl Tien has made contact with him, and that has spread the field out as well, but Berryman, that was definitely contact between Berryman and the fighter that we saw going into turn 2.
I think about half the grid involved in that. They had some more aftermaths coming through turn 5 under the bridge as well. All sorts of chaos, shenanigans. It does mean top 3 have scampered away. Benecke, Bennett, and Brient. The 11, the 59, and the 72. Now 3 seconds clearance in towards Cunningham Corner. They work one of the Williams cars side by side with Ryan Barnard for BS competition, leaning on one another as we jump on board with Arturo Melgar.
Just trying to find any space possible. The middle part of this lap, so difficult to overtake on, especially on the bumps, especially on the cold tyres, when you're trying to balance the car. Then you get the opportunity to kind of a bit of momentum through these corners and onto the back straight, and that perhaps then helps you slipstream into that final turn. But the final turn doesn't have a massive braking zone either, and so it really is a challenge around this circuit to find some space in these wide Dallara LMP2 cars. But I have to say, this is working out perfectly for Redline. They've got Benecke at the head of the field and Bennett in 2nd position.
Bit of contact between Brient and Bennett, and Brient almost loses it coming across the start-finish line. These cars are tanky, but the thing that you notice instantly there, Ben, is through Sunset Bend, you can run multiple lines. A bit bumpier on the inside, but you can swing your momentum if you run that outside line. Ryan Barneveld looking to the inside of turn number 1.
Trying to make it work there, but look at how much the momentum he loses by doing so. Has to go on the brakes late to claim the apex and try not to get past. That's for 6th position, so he's had a good start, and that's Morena Saraca behind him, who's dropped a couple of places. Presumably would have been first on the scene of that turn 2 skirmish. But what I was going to say quickly was having a Team Redline car behind Benecke in 2nd position, protecting for the rest of the field. Elbows out for Luke Bennett, so that Maxime Brent can't get anywhere near Benecke, and Benecke can then just cruise himself into championship contention.
Absolutely. Bennett's a youngster when it comes to sim racing, but very experienced in all things racing. Has enabled his teammate to now build up the gap up to 2 seconds as we watch. It's almost side by side once more as they come down into tower. The Williams car dives it to the inside, has his nose almost chopped off. Will give the run to Melgar behind him, but it's difficult to get the braking zone into the penultimate couple of corners because you can cover the inside line, which we're going to see Sarika do here.
What for the Team Redline, the car to 11 positions, so that's 5 positions. He's into qualifying of that final bonus race. That's one of the big focuses for them. And remember, there is qualifying before the bonus race, so it doesn't actually matter where you finish in this race if your focus is just picking up big money from the bonus race. And so Vecchio behind Kekashub. It's quite frenetic in the middle. And here is that contact again. It was a little bit of contact between Thomas Tahela, who just still had a nose alongside Peter Berryman, and there's the rest of the field. Actually, the field did well not to have too much contact. Yuri Kazdorp being spun around at turn 3.
But there's the contact, there's the chaos, there's the shenanigans. BS Turner gets mixed up in it, and that's just the classic concertina effect. As here comes Sarika looking to the inside of Fraser Williamson for SRC Movano Corsa. Beautifully done, and Williamson doesn't fight that one too hard.
No, that means Williamson's dropped a couple of positions then from where he started the lap. He was up in 4th spot, so that means Julien Soenen as well has got past. And not a good lap there for SRC. And it's classic Sebring. You get put offline on one of these corners, and because they so interlink so much, you then compromise through 3 or 4 of them, and you find a train of cars coming past you. And obviously that's not going to happen to our leading guys. Here's Kekashub in 8th spot now, so he's made up some positions since the last time my timing screen refreshed, which was actually quite a while ago, so I'm talking a little bit rubbish. Let's see if we can get that working again, shall we?
For SRC Movano Corsa, by the way, a little bit of history on them. SRC Squadra Corsa and Movano Sim Racing, 2 very established teams, have joined forces to become one of the dominant forces in Italian sim racing. We're very dominant in the Sports Car Open season opener. We'll see if they can continue that form this coming week when Sports Car Open heads to the Circuit of the Americas for a 1,000-kilometer showdown, riding on board with Kekashub, the onboard. Look, we had a chat with him a couple of weeks ago. Great to be partnered with Lauren Heinrich, but he's testing with Porsche this week. Kashube has a new teammate, and he's already passed Williamson in that 52 car.
Got the inside line. Williamson could go around the outside here. As you said, there is multiple lines, but he's already slotted in and trying to get the switch back, trying to carry a bit more momentum at the apex because Kekashub will be pushed wide, and perhaps there's still an opportunity to fight back into turn 1. Maybe not quite close enough. There is battling going on ahead, though, for 6th position, and that's another BS competition car putting a move on Soroka, I think.
I think that was Sarika, actually, who got the move done on Ryan Barnard as Arturo Melgar just runs a bit wide, kicks up some grass. You can get away with that once, but you don't want to do it repeated because you will end up in the tire wall and with significant damage to these LMP2 cars. You can see bottom right portion of your screen. Race control, extremely busy here today, but no further action so far on some of the incidents they've been reviewing. Clearly, they don't think that the chaos on the start was any one driver's fault. Maybe some racing incidents, a side-by-side into the hairpin. Williamson having to defend from the Sim Racing Wiki car.
Great action here with the pit window starting to approach. So some of those drivers, you would expect most of these esports drivers to stay in the car as much as possible. Williams to the inside, but he's going to get mugged here if he's got a little bit of an overlap. There is an overlap, and it's still side-by-side.
That's Gianni Vecchio trying to work his way around the outside of tower. Williamson almost leans on him, but Vecchio somehow gets the job done. Williamson will drop behind Melgar. Can the RAG car of Przemysław Lemonek have a look as well? Oh, Williamson gets railroaded down into Le Mans corner.
Nice big queue. It's amazing to see how qualifying has not worked out for some of these drivers, but they have great race pace. And that is what Vecchio is proving here. Now, Vecchio is one of the drivers I would expect come into the pits as early as possible. He'd get himself out of the traffic as well, which is probably not such a bad thing, because it does seem as though there's a lot of traffic here going on. Team VRS, is that David Williams trying to go around the outside? We haven't seen that car qualify particularly well. I'm not even sure whether we've seen it in the bonus race at all, but David Williams up to 12th now and in a qualifying position.
Yeah, and this is what's great about Sebring, right, is you can have these sort of battles up and down through the field. They look great, don't necessarily make it the fastest way around the track, and now 10th position, 12 seconds back from Mr. iRacing himself, Maximilian Benecke, who looks on course for another victory in the 2021 VCO ProSim Series. He'll secure himself the championship as well.
Absolutely. He's got enough of an advantage. He is in the lead of this race at the moment. Things could still happen, but nearly 3 second gap. But Benecke at the head of the field, and there's no way his teammate's going to throw that away. BS competition car in the back of shot getting a bit sideways there and losing a bit of momentum.
Here comes the BS Turner car. Great to see the split livery, of course, which debuted in real world competition here back in the month of March. Long way around for Kesselhut, somehow makes it stick. What a move. Williamson, who was once up there fighting for a top 5 position, has slid all the way down to 14, in danger of not making it to the bonus race.
Yeah, some of these guys are wanting to get themselves out of this battle. So much slower to be fighting around here because you are always offline. And therefore you can't just get your head down and get the lap times in when you're trying to get through traffic.
But look at them snaking back and forth down the Almond Straight, just trying to break the toe. Whatever they can do to make their life a little bit easier. This car, with the setup that we're running, remember, it's a fixed setup for everyone, high downforce as well, so that draft will really aid you in getting the momentum that you need to try and make the moves down the inside. Pit window will open next time around. Don't think anyone can come into the lane this time.
Maybe a few guys at the further back, maybe not quite close enough. We might see a split strategy for those further back, but perhaps it doesn't matter so much as Bootaloop losing a position there, but look how much momentum he can take. But then the track gets so narrow that really very tricky to go side by side around these first couple of turns, and you've got the bumps as well. Now, we do also see when they come into the pits, drivers tend to change tyres because it takes the same amount of time to change the tyres as to do the driver change. It happens at the same time, whereas I think in the F3 car we saw it split, and therefore there wasn't that possibility. It does mean for the first couple or half a lap or even one lap, you've got cold tyres to deal with on a pretty low grip surface.
Yeah, but it is fairly warm, 37 degrees track temperature, so the tyres maybe half a lap in, maybe when they're coming around here, turn 10 at Cunningham, they'll be back up to speed. Does mean that potentially the overcut is what you want. If you're back here in the pack and you get some clean air, you see the cars dive to the right-hand side onto pit lane. We know how congested pit entry can be as well at a place like this, Ben, because it's not a wide pit entry and you're slamming onto the brakes at very high speed. Maybe the overcut's what we're going to see as pit window is open.
Okay, pit window open now, which will basically give everybody the same opportunity to get into the pits as we watch Jeremy Bootaloop, mainstayer of Coanda Sim Sport and many, many years in iRacing, just trying to find a way through. And look, straight away, Benecke in pits. So our leader of a race has gone for an early stop.
He's got such a big advantage that I'm a bit surprised, if we're being honest. Maybe he's concerned that he might not get into pit lane in time, as here comes the rest of the cars flying their way onto the lane. Jeremy Bootaloop can see the focus on the Frenchman's face. And a reminder, if you want to follow along with live timing and scoring, because there's so much action out on track, racebot.tv/timing too. You can follow along with your favorite team and drivers.
Interesting that not so many have chosen this opportunity. Maybe it just came too late to really get everything prepared for those drivers, because lots of our top runners have not pitted, including the team I thought was going to do it. Have we seen Vecchio in the pits? I can't see if we have.
No, Vecchio has come down into the pit lane from what I can see. He's going to hand over to, as Sadokist called him this weekend, Enzo Burrito. The Redline car is actually up out of pit lane 1 and 2 right now. Yes, no, Benito. Enzo Burrito. It made me laugh.
Benito is one of the very best. Maybe not necessarily on iRacing. He's had to adapt his style and had to adapt to being at the very peak of iRacing performance, but he is one of the best sim racers generally in the world, Benito, and we should see real progress now. He goes up against some of these real world pros. Some, you have to say, are probably better on iRacing than they are in the real world, and probably Benito would find himself in that category, although he's maybe not had the opportunities to show his best pace. Finished, I think, runner-up in the single-seater championship in iRacing that he was supported by many sim racing product. Bennett and Brent come into the pits absolutely nose to tail. but we wouldn't expect these two to challenge our leader once he gets over the start-finish straight.
David Williams is staying out there one more lap. He's going to miss the pit stop window if I've done my math correctly, because it's not a short lap here, about 1 minute 47, give or take. That's a close call, but you're right. It's not going to be about Bennett and Lulham, who, if they can carry on this course, will be both victorious in this 2021 VCO ProSim Series. The battle really is second on back.
Pit window closes in 60 seconds, so I think we are going to see David Williams excluded out of this race. That's a real shame, actually, because, as we said, he was on course for actually qualifying that 31 car into the bonus race, but unfortunately, by not pitting, he won't go through. He was supposed to hand over to Loic Hartog. I've not seen anywhere on my production chat that Hartog is not with us. We do have a couple of guys that are racing on their own, but they still have to make that pit stop, and they still have to sit in the pits for 30 seconds. There is Enzo Benito with the shaggy, long Italian hair. Of course, if he was called Enzo Benito, he could be no other nationality than Italian.
Where has Maxime Brience's teammate Benny Simonson come out in all of this? He's about 1 second back from Gustas Grinbergas, so Benito is well and truly out of the mix as Benny Simonson loops it by himself in the hairpin and almost gets collected by Elliot Vayron in the RAG car.
Not what you want. He was fighting for a podium, and look at the cars coming past now. One long stream of LMP2 cars. He can't find a gap to come into, and it's going to be close whether he can get himself through into the bonus race now. He's fallen outside of the top 15 positions. Oh, and such a little spin, no contact made with anybody else, and he nearly got going back in third position. But unfortunately, as David Williams comes in now, and he gets turned around again.
Is
That's
there
worse?
Well, I wonder if there's maybe just some hardware issues, maybe didn't have things calibrated properly. The issue would have been, as he's towed back to the pit lane, day done for Maxime Brience and Benny Simmons, and that's going to be frustration for both of them. The issue is when you loop yourself like that and then you light up the tires trying to get it going once more, you really heat up the tires. And in iRacing, that means you have no grip. And so braking on the bumps down into turn 10 at Cummingen, well, there's really not much that Simonson would have been able to do there.
So that's a retirement for them. There is Loic Hartog, who's now aboard the Team VRS 31 car. I think they will head out. They do head out onto track, but I don't think race control will be too happy with them. The number 10, Pascal Gurkis, also in pit lane. I think he might be out of the race. In fact, he has been in pits for quite a while. So the number 10 Coanda Simsport out of the race. Big shout out to BS Competition's Beitske Witte, our only female racer, 5th position for BS Competition, and just half a second behind is Bruno Spengler on his return to the VCO ProSim. So those two having a great fight over 5th position, and two really big names in the world of real racing. Ahead of them, Arthur Liok, who's done a little bit of real world stuff. Elliot Vayron, who's done Formula 4, I think, in France. Chris Lulham, who has done a lot of karting, but not so much single-seater racing, certainly not in the last couple of years. And then Gustaf Grinbergas, who I definitely know as a sim racer rather than a real-world racer. So Beitske Witte and Bruno Spengler, the biggest two names out there right now. We've got Max Verstappen coming in to the second heat. So stick with us, just 4 minutes remaining of this one, and then we'll be there. Oh, Beitske really missing the apex there. I thought she was going to go round, but just about kept the car facing the right direction. And somewhere behind her is Bruno Spengler giving all this pressure.
Yeah, about 6 tenths the gap. Gustas Grinbergas, yes, he's got a credentialed history in sim racing, but of course the youngest ever winner of an ACO sanctioned event. That was Asian Le Mans when he was racing with Rick Ware Racing at the Bend in the land down under. Of course, now usually drives for Simsa Esports, but has partnered up with Team Redline for this competition. 5 seconds back from Chris Lulham. Does look like it's going to be a Redline 1-2. There's a battle for the podium going on, as I'm seeing Sindre Setzel's drop down the timing screen, but it's just a technical issue. He's back on track and still looking good. Here's the battle for the podium. Arthur Lulham chasing down Elliot Vayron. And this is the great thing about this competition, right? You were mentioning it earlier. Some of these drivers have more experience in sim racing than real racing, and that's the case here with Elliot Vayron and Arthur Lulham trying to go wheel to wheel. They're going to get closer as the drive-through penalty for the 31 car. That's Loic Hartog, so that would be for missing the pit window.
Yeah, makes sense. We saw that and called that earlier. Elliot Vayron hasn't got that car, as far as I can remember, up in a very high position. We've seen RHG right at the sharp end of many of our races. No wins for them as yet, but Vayron, the number 19 car's best result, I think is 26th in the second race. No, that's completely correct. Race result, third position in the first round of the championship. So I apologise to the 19 car. Vayron was there in third in race 1 a couple of weeks ago, but mainly the 8 and the 88 cars are the ones that have really been flying the flag for RHG.
This is Elliot and Racecraft Esports' Brian Lockwood, who are battling over the final transfer position. Brian Lockwood does have 15th, but is coming under fire from William Chadwick in the second of the Fordzilla cars, the number 14. Meanwhile, still coming out of Le Mans, it will be white flag this time around, so final lap of the race. Final opportunity for some of these drivers to make up some positions in this heat race. Remember, the podium positions do pay out $100 for third place, so there is some money on the line here.
Not entirely sure whether Elliot Vayron should be imitating warming up tyres along the back straight there. Lots of weaving to try and break the slipstream of Arthur Leuk. And then behind we've got Bike Gustas, Bruno Spengler, Sandra Setas, Enzo Benito. All four locked together. So there's real potential here for lots of changes on this last lap. Not at the front of the field. Chris Lulham is going to bring that car home and take the championship thanks to Benecke's good qualifying, masterful qualifying, nearly 2/10 better than anybody else. And Lulham has just really cruised home like he did to his teammate last time out. And then we've got Grinbergas on his own, 5 seconds to the good over these two. Does look as though Arthur Leuk has backed out a little bit, and perhaps there isn't an opportunity for a late change at the end of this one.
Maybe setting it up into sunset. Does run a bit wide through the hairpin. But you talk about qualifying, that is where the pressure is on, right? Because there's only one lap in the session where you get, it's basically a Super Pole session. One chance for glory, and well, Benecke really showed why people call him Mr. iRacing today.
And what makes it even more pressured is if you just go a centimetre, a millimetre off track, then iRacing deletes your lap. It's not as though you can push it, you can go on the grass a little bit and like that, and be all good and get a lap time. That would have had your lap time deleted in qualifying, and therefore you start at the tail of the field. That's what we saw from Aychan Guven and Josh Rogers in one of our races. I think it was in Hockenheim, so that was round 2. But Lulham looks chill, doesn't he? Brand new to Oxford Brookes University, in Freshers Week, I suppose, or just into Freshers Week now. But Chris Lulham brings the Team Redline number 11 car over the line to take the checkered flag, and he and Max Benecke are champions of VCO ProSim for Season 2.
And what a way to do it. No stress on his face. You wouldn't know that he had just set the fastest lap of this heat number 1, coming to the checkered flag. Some drag races to the line, but what can you say? Dominant day for Redline once more here today. From Lulham for Benecke, consistency over 4 races has really shown why they are so quick here on iRacing, and Redline continue to perform in 2021.
It wasn't really Redline's year last year in VCO ProSim, and you kind of got the feeling that Coanda had the handle on them, and so many times on the iRacing service, Coanda seemed to be able to triumph over Team Redline. But for this, it does seem as though Redline have pulled out all the stops and thrown really the big guns at it, kept Max Benecke calm, everything started to go right. Even Chris Lulham looks like he's brushed his hair for the occasion. Lots of chatting going on between himself and presumably his team. And that's a big championship for Redline to take a victory on.
Absolutely, and I mean, continues their year of some great performances in VCO competition. Of course, the 2021 special events, they almost swept the VCO Grand Slams that we had. And if not for technical failures in the final one, the 10 hours of Suzuka, they would have done that. But here are your race results.
So it's a Team Redline 1-2, 6 seconds the gap over a 20-minute race between our top two. Elliot Vayron finishing up in third position, holding off Arthur Leuk, but 12 seconds back. Then we had that great battle between Weizsäcker, Bruno Spengler, Sandro Setas and Enzo Benito. No change in those positions in the last couple of laps. RHG Esports number 8, Nicolas Verone, 9th spot ahead of ProStar Racing's 33, stealing Max Verstappen's number. 10th position, qualifying into the bonus race.
And now we have to talk about the guys who are going to be in the bonus race. Great to see Robbie Foley, who did wield the BS Turner BMW M4 GT4 car, that crossover car in Sebring in the month of March. He finishes 11th with Orion Racing Team in 12th. Will Tregurther for SRC Movano Corsa in 13th. Moritz Lohner 14th for Coanda Simsport, but the final car to transfer, not sure if Race Control is going to have a look at the incident that we saw between Brian Lockwood and the BS competition car and maybe promote Sergio Sedekamera into the bonus race, but for now, it's Lockwood in 15th. William Chadwick in 17th, said he didn't have much practice, but still had some fun out there. What a battle it was from 15th to 19th, 1 second separating them, Marius Zook, Elias Sepinen, and Jimmy Antunes through the top 20.
Looking outside the top 20 positions then, Loic Hartog, I don't know if he took his penalty or not, but 21st position in the end with a penalty. Josh Mallon, the Red Bull Racing Esports car, we saw getting caught up in accidents, and really all of these guys caught up in those first couple of corners problems. Van der Waal Racing's 41, Satellite Racing 75. None of the really big hitters, I suppose, until you look down at Apex Racing. Bad race for them. Simonson spinning out when he took over the car on cold tyres. Peter Berryman being eliminated after contact as well. 2 cars that should have been in our bonus race and unfortunately instead are in the pits and out for the evening. Our last car was the Coanda Simsport 10 that retired on that one.
I don't think for Apex Racing Team they're going to be too frustrated. Yes, they would have loved to be a part of the bonus race for those 2 cars, but 2 World Championships for the Apex team last week in a year where they're going to be moving to a new facility as well. Look at the start though, 3 wide they were across the line with Barney the flagman vigorously having that green flag in his hands. It was some commotion though into the opening couple of corners. They survived the first part. There was more calamity after that, but from there, some incredible racing that we saw up and down through the field.
Absolutely, Sebring really providing great racing as you come to expect whenever anybody goes there, whether it's the WEC, whether it's the 12 hours or the 24 hours that happened last weekend. A brutal circuit to do 24 hours. And in fact, back in the day when Audi used to go over there and do the 12-hour race, they would then do a 24-hour race on the Monday and Tuesday of testing just to really give their car an absolute beating. Lots and lots of battling. There's the number 70 car, which was initially piloted by Gianni Vecchio. Did a great job of getting himself up through the field. Oh, that was contact we didn't see with the Red Bull Esports car. Sad that we only got 1 Red Bull car. There's Benny Simonson going around. Just didn't have the grip, did he? Wasn't even going particularly fast. Just lost the rear end. And Team VRS's David Williams, I imagine that is, getting a little bit loose and a little bit wide as well.
Oh, and that was the 58 car going wide. I still don't know if Race Control has had a final look at all of that. Oh, look at that, though. Almost outbraking himself. Not sure how the Red Bull car slowed down in time. That was a great move. And that was the battle for 15th that raged all the way to the line. And, well, for another BS car battling with Arnage competition, making a debut in VCO ProSim competition today, didn't go well for the pink car there.
Over the line though, Chris Lulham took the checkered flag, but it was Maximilian Benecke who did the hard work at the start of the race and, most importantly, got that pole position by a huge margin. They are your champions. Let's, in a few seconds, have a word with our drivers, not only taking a commanding victory here at Sebring, but also taking the VCO ProSim in commanding fashion. It's Chris Lulham. How's it going, Chris? Brushed your hair for the occasion. Another evening in the sim, and you've got yourself a championship as well. How's it feel?
Oh yeah, it feels awesome. I mean, going into it, I wasn't expecting it at all. But yeah, no, I have to thank Max for this job he's done this season, and especially this race, the pole by such a margin, and really gave us the points we needed just to secure the title. But no, it's been really good fun this season.
How much were you on cruise mode there?
I was still pushing for fast laps, but I wasn't taking any risks. There was no need to take any risks. We didn't really even need the win for the points, but no, just no pushing, no risks. It was all good.
And now, I suppose you're focusing on the bonus race. You've got yourself some laps in the bag as a bit of testing, so you can get yourself a pole position, presumably, for the bonus race, and then cruise away like Max did and get yourself a nice check to put towards your university.
Yeah, that's a tough ask, but no, that's the plan. That's the plan. It's going to be a tough grid in the bonus for sure, but just got to be on the sharp end again.
I mean, you've got Verstappen to fight against in the bonus if he qualifies. That's a big deal.
yeah, that'll be tough. Out qualifying him is rough. He always puts together a good lap. You know, there's a reason he's where he is. But yeah, no, I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Chris. Congratulations. Let's now talk to Maximilian Benecke, who really did the deal and did all he needed to do with that fast lap in qualifying. Arjuna, what a performance, Max.
Yeah, put on a show when it was qualifying, Max. Talk to us about that lap, because from there, that was the race and the championship basically in your hands.
Yeah, first, thanks. Obviously, pole position gave us everything we needed. I knew from the beginning on that this is what we need, because on Sebring, it's kind of hard to overtake. You have a good slipstream, but you have those S's before the long straight, so it's still kind of hard with the dirty air. So yeah, my lap was really good. I was really happy about it. Chance of a margin to Maxime there, which is great. And from there on, yeah, just try to pull away, and luckily that worked out. And Chris did a fantastic job. He did a couple of fast lap times, so yeah, all in all, perfect event again today. But we still have one race to count, and we still want to do good there.
Talk to us a little bit about Chris, Max, because of course you were part of the major forces that when Pure Racing Team switched over to Redline, one of the main drivers there. But the last year, you've really recruited some really young, talented drivers, the likes of Chris, Luke Bennett as well, so many new faces. He's just such a quick driver, isn't he? No matter what car you put him in.
Absolutely, yeah. Chris is still very young and is getting better from race to race, and he did a fantastic job. He did fastest lap times, I mean, quicker than anyone else in the grid. Yeah, fantastic signing there, as well as Luke, P2. Yeah, a bunch of young and motivated and very quick drivers who joined our team, and I'm very happy about that. And yeah, hopefully I can teach them a bit and they can teach me a bit, so we can all yeah, get better overall. But Chris, yeah, fantastic drive throughout the whole season, basically didn't do a single mistake, and now I'm just looking forward to the last race.
And what's changed from last year in the F3 car in our first season of the VCO ProSim series? Because I think it's fair to say it didn't go great for you. A lot of bad luck, just misfortune came to you. But I think we were looking at the results for this past November. You guys haven't finished outside the podium. It's been incredible.
Yeah, this car just suits me personally. I think Chris as well, much better than last year. The thing is just the F3 is so dependent on tires. You're always limited to tires, so tire warming was so crucial at quali. And if you start in the back, then you can't make it forward because everybody has a slipstream. The car, yeah, it's super easy to drive, not as way easier than the LMP2. So that was a huge issue. If you're not there in quali, then you have this issue. You can still warm up the tires a bit in the LMP2, but because of the band brake dragging, it's much easier for us to get the car in the front of the grid. So that's mainly what helped us this season to really show our potential.
I know you and a lot of the other drivers very happy that VCO took a firm stance on the brake dragging.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Max. Victorious here in 2021 VCO ProSim champions. Still one race to go, and we'll hopefully get to talk to you both in victory lane and the champion circle, with 30 minutes of racing still yet to come for you.
I hope so too. Thanks a lot. See you then.
Well, there you go. We've got our champions sorted, but now we've got probably the most anticipated part of our evening. Heat 2 and some incredible names coming up. Firstly, before we dwell on that, Lewis, that performance from Redline, from Maximilian Benecke, absolutely showing the class that we always knew he had, but sometimes didn't quite show through.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know exactly what's clicked for Max Benecke in this season, but it just has clicked. Absolutely sensational in pace and consistency, and once again shows it when it's needed. Basically just ran away and meant that his teammate Chris didn't have any real work to do. Just have a nice little drive in Florida.
George, perhaps not necessarily the most spectacular drive from the guys at the head of our field because of the gaps and just able to really have a comfort. But what about the battles further behind? Who are you most impressed with to see come through the field and get another qualifying position?
You know, I was definitely impressed, I think, with Williams. Certainly in that last race, I thought they were absolutely spectacular. Getting up into P4, I think they had a bit of a stiff hand. They've had a pretty tough championship as well to date. It hasn't really all gone their way at this moment in time, but they've definitely got the potential. There's some big names. I know the likes of Ate Kaupanen is a very accomplished driver as well. Certainly has crossed over very well indeed into the world of iRacing, and I can only imagine he'll spring on and develop. I'm a bit disappointed to see that we have yet to have a win for R8G Esports. I think that's a big shame. They've got some quality drivers there as well. I think we firmly place them up at the top end to be challenging Redline at the highest ends of the championship. So, but take nothing away from Maximilian Benecke. He has been sensational.
Well, let's see what happens in the next heat, because this is where we've got some huge names. Max Verstappen joins us once again. And whilst we've now got the championship sorted, they don't have to worry so much about interfering in Redline's championship. Hoffman and Verstappen can absolutely go full pace, Arjuna.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be a really interesting one. Qualifying is also done, so it's going to be great when we take a look at the starting grid. Did Verstappen's teammate really step it up when the pressure is on? Remember, esports drivers take qualifying for this heat race. It will switch around, though, for the bonus race, where the pro drivers will do qualifying and the race start as well.
Right then, it's time to get over to Sebring. The gridding is beginning. George and Lewis will be your commentators.
Well then, a champion crowned. We'll exchange one Max for another and take a look at our starting grid. Jamie Fluke on pole position for Apex Racing Team with BS Competition on the front row. MSI Esports Alejandro Sanchez, a race winner already this season, in third, with Mac Backham starting from fourth. Martin Kronke for Team VRS alongside Martin van Loozenord in sixth position.
Charlie Collins lines up in P7. Of course, they were challenging Redline for championship gold this season. Unfortunately, not able to get it today. Ross Woodford for Yas Heat on P8. Lewis Nasser in P9. Dominic Blaher there in P10 with Jürgen Frank in P11 with Dominic Hoffman, teammate to Max Verstappen, in 12th position.
Yeah, keep an eye on them. Quintin Violate from 13th position with Becky. Dylan Scrivens starts from 14th. Timo Hayden in 15th position with the Williams Esports Ben Q car starting in that first position outside of the all-important top 15. SRC Movano, of course, already have one car in. They're going to be rolling from 17th in this one. And Luke McEwen in the Logitech Gialtas Esports car in 18th spot.
Vlad Kimichev in 19th with Suelio Almeida in 20th spot. Martin Siratek in P21st with Sam Cuter in P22. Connor Harrington lines up in P23 for private label Team Hype, and Salva Talents for MSI lines up in 24th spot.
Still four more cars though, as we've got another one of the Triton Racing cars. Samsoy Kanani Esports from 26th position, and then another failed qualifying attempt from Josh Rogers, 27th on the grid with all of the work to do. It's not been the season for the number one. They're alongside the number 69 RN Vision STS Sim Racing car from the rear of the grid. George, this has all the hallmarks, of course, of a fantastic race. We've already had the championship sorted in the previous heat. Now it's time for us to just go out and have a bit of fun.
Well, do you know what? The pressure's off now, Lewis. The pressure's off. You would think to some extent, of course, we still got prize money on the line. Don't take anything away from it. But at the same time, a lot of these drivers are going to be going for it. And this is the best place to do it. Certainly Sebring with wide circuits, plenty of opportunities heading certainly into the final corner at Sunset Bend. But how about that middle sector? Coming out of Big Bend at turn 6, heavy braking zone at the hairpin at turn 7. And then you're making your way through turn 7, 8, 9, of course 10, Collier curve as well, into 12th and 13th to the tower. And you make that long descent down towards turn 16 at Le Mans, where you'll take the Ullman straight yet again. It serves up a very tasty affair, and we'll look forward to seeing Max Verstappen later on as well.
Absolutely. It really is not an easy racetrack, this one, but certainly one that provides its racing opportunities. We will hope, though, to avoid the calamitous turn 2, 3, 4 section that we had in the previous heat, because it was a little bit messy in there, everyone tripping up over each other. Hopefully we'll avoid that one.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, we did see a couple of spinalas, shall we say, heading around turn 3 and 4. Gets a little bit hair-room scare-room when they sort of downshift into that sector. I think a lot of the cars can get a little unsteady. It's quite a bumpy circuit as well here at Sebring. You can really see it coming around Sunset Bend when you have that wide camera shot. You can see the LMP2s just flittering about just a little bit on the surface. But, you know, at the end of the day, we have endurance racing here. It's a proven circuit to go racing, certainly on all levels of motorsports. So we'll look forward to seeing How these guys cope with it is going to be a very tasty and tantalizing affair.
They should be moving in a short while's time, but I'm going to ask you for a bit of a prediction in this one. Who's going to win it? And also, are we going to see, you've got to focus on them a little bit, is that Dominic Hoffman, Max Verstappen car, is it getting through into the final?
Do you know what? I've got to go with him. I've got to. Right now, obviously, Formula One is he's certainly at the top of his game right now. He's got the pace. Can the skill set carry over? We've seen it several times. He's taken part in the best events in sim racing, and I'm sure he can do it again. Certainly, Max Verstappen will be partnering up with Dominic Hoffman for this one. But you've also got to look out for Charlie Collins and Mitchell de Jong as well. But I'm also expecting a rapid rise from Rogers at the back as well. Joshua Rogers, who is no stranger from getting a car from the back to the near front. He's going to be in one hell of a fight to get up there today. That
number one is absolutely aiming for one thing and one thing alone in this race, and that is just getting inside the top 15 and then aiming for some prize money in the final race of the season. Coming up after this one, it's going to be a tense affair here at Sebring, and what a fantastic venue to head to as we end our season. Heat number 2 in the VCO ProSim Season 2 about to get underway, and already launching on that run down to turn 1. Jamie Fluke for Apex has already gone as he jettisoned his way from the front of the grid. Reina Talva under a lot of pressure though from Alejandro Sanchez as they're going side by side, a little bit of a brush towards the front, and Alejandro Sanchez has got into second.
Yeah, big incident there, big incident further down, and that's car 82, and that is Martin Siratek, who has now dropped all the way down to P27, and I think Joshua Rogers might have been caught up in the drama as well. But Jamie Fluke, no fluke indeed, makes his way into P1 and leads still with a 1.4 second gap. There's a big battle with Alejandro Sanchez and Reina Talva for second place, wheel to wheel into the next right-hander as they make their way around the hairpin. Salva Talent, or should I say Alejandro Sanchez, coming out on top ahead of Reina Talva.
Yeah, you had to watch out there from Mac Attack coming from behind. Backen was all over the place trying to grab third position off, and then you've got the contingent of Coanders as there goes Mac Backen straight down the inside to try and grab the position off of Talva as the Coander cars all squabble between each other, just trying to jostle for position. Martin Cronker was not able to get past Charlie Collins, who we presently ride on board with. That was tight stuff, and it's just allowing Alejandro Sanchez to set his sights on first place.
He certainly is, but he's got a huge gap to plug. 1.6 is still the deficit, folks. That is the gap between him and Jamie Fluke. Reina Talva, 6/10 behind. Mark Backham looking to be one of the, well, certainly right in the fray of getting a P3 if he can stick on the rear of Talva, and I'd imagine certainly getting some nice slipstream as they make their way down the next straight. Carnage in behind. I'm not quite sure what happened there. That is car number 56. That's Andre Botcher, who is right at the back, and he's now drifting down the field for Williams, I believe, as we're now watching all the cars. They make their rapid descent down through the long straight yet again under the Chevrolet banner in towards turn 1. There's Charlie Collins in P5 and certainly trying to make his way through down the inside of turn 1. Charlie Collins and Coanda Simsport going for it here on Mac Backham, moves up into P4 in absolutely superior fashion.
Yeah, superb stuff there from the young Welshman. As also behind that, you've got side-by-side between Ross Woodford running on board with Dominic Blyer for Triton Racing, and nearly Woodford picked up that spot, and Dominic Blyer, who's wise in racecraft himself, is going to get past the Yaz Heat car and maybe even try and attack Martin Cronker. You've got R8G as well trying to find their way through down the insiders, making it side-by-side for multiple positions and coming through in all that. Yep, keep your eye on that black and green Team Redline car. That one is Dominic Hoffman, the car that he'll be sharing with Max Verstappen a bit later on in the day. Triton go defensive and just trying to hang on from those behind. Ross Woodford dropping backwards a little bit. Martin van Lozenoord is all over the place trying to attack but not able to get through.
No, not at all. It's been an absolutely special encounter, that's for sure. Dominic Blyer there still in P7 with Ross Woodford hot on his tail, of course. A very, very accomplished sim racer, accomplished endurance racer, but now he's going to have to pull out all the stops to defend this time against the man behind him, and that is, of course, Martin van Luzenoord, who's currently in 9th spot for R8G. Team Redline's Dominic Hoffman as well in behind those. As long as he stays within that P10 or above, or well, at least P15 to say the least, he will get into the bonus race, and therefore hopefully Max Verstappen will be there as well. But we'll keep you posted on that one, folks. They come around the next right-hander now. And as they do so, just edging the car around the outside. You get thrown well out wide here. Need to take great care around this segment of the circuit. But still, Jamie Fluke leads. Maintaining a good gap, though, here at the moment, Lewis. 1.5 seconds. That's not bad at all.
Yeah, absolutely superb at the moment from Jamie Fluke as we head over the bumps of Sunset and of T1, then onto the slightly smoother tarmac on that run down through turn 2 and into 3 as things get bumpy once more. Fantastic opening start of the race from the Apex Racing team. The salvo being fired off from Jamie Fluke in fantastic fashion, but do not rule out Alejandro Sanchez. He knows how to win in this car, obviously has done earlier on in the season. That was when he was teammates with Mohamed Ibrahim. This time he's teammates with Niels Koch this evening. So I mean, Niels Koch's a fantastic driver, but when you've had a mindset of winning with Mohamed Ibrahim, a change of lineup in that does make you a little bit more uncomfortable riding back on board with Martin van Loosenoord and still trying to find a way back through on Ross Woodford, on Dominic Blyer as well. He just picked off all these lot and now trying to just hang on.
Yeah, Blyer is currently a sitting duck right now. He's 8.5 tenths in behind Kroenke, which may not seem a lot, but it is when you've got Ross Woodford right in behind you and well within a chance of an overtake. Only 1/10 of a second separates them, and Ross Woodford immediately goes alongside. Wheel-to-wheel action between the Triton racing car as well as the Yassit of Ross Woodford, slinging it around the outside now. What a beautiful camera shot with Martin van Loosenoord, who might get the run here. 3-wide potential affair, not this time though, as Woodford now at the mercy of Loosenoord as they head down into the final corner at Sunset Bend. Will he have the upper hand? He has the inside line. Will he send it? No, Ross Woodford. He certainly does. No stone unturned. Still wheel to wheel around the final corner. Heading down the home stretch now under the Yokohama banners. There you can see them all nose to tail. Dominic Hoffman looking to get into the fight now. Again, wheel to wheel into turn 1. Spectacular racing. In comes Ross Woodford now, trying to move his way up into 8th place. Or 7th place, should I say. Certainly still battling in amongst each other. Ooh. Incredible moment. Oh my word. Blyer now literally hightailing off the circuit. He's onto the grass, and that's going to cost him.
Yeah, received a bit of a hip check there, unfortunately, from Ross Woodford in the braking zone of 3 and was sent off, sent packing. You make contact with the grass and you are going off, Sonny Jim, as we focus on Lewis Naja now trying to get past Hayden as well. He's got to get around the outside, going down into the hairpin after they've exited Big Ben, but that one's not normally one which works out quite as prolifically as we see around the outside of Sunset. Absolutely fantastic move, must be said there, from Ross Woodford, still on the defence. Now back on board with Lewis Naja. This one's not really one that works going around the outside, but if you can do so, you've got the inside for the next couple of corners. Still not able to do anything about it. Fastest lap of the race, though, interestingly enough, does come, as we've seen on the timesheets, from Reina Talva, who's running around in 3rd spot in the slipstream of Alejandro Sanchez. Is there more pace in the tank? Is this race done with 30 minutes left to go? Absolutely not. The race for the win is still on.
Yeah, you've still got to try and plug that 1.5 second gap, though. Alejandro Sanchez, though, to his benefit, does have a bit of a gap, in behind BS Competition, Reina Talva, half a second, the deficit between the pair. And then Coanda Sim Sport, Charlie Collins, 1.8 seconds back. That is actually drifting outwards as well. And we're now watching this very vast collection of cars make their way down towards the next stretch. There you can see Kimachev's car right in behind car number 34 of Lewis Nassar, now Vayron Esports in behind as well. You can see plenty of others looking to try and enter the fray. Ross Woodford leading them round. In comes now Dominic Hoffman, who's having a look instantly on not finding a way through Dominic Hoffman, but he did have a little bit of a nose, and he's right on the tail now of that RHG Esports car. Might get an opportunity here heading around the Gurney Bend as they make their way down through the next left-hander now. Big Ben, they also call it, heading around turn 6 as they make their way down the stretch. No DRS open for these guys. They make their way down through the next right-hander now. Dominic Hoffman in the slipstream, opts the switch to the inside line, heads down into the hairpin at turn 7. Is it lucky for him? Not this time. Maybe so, though. Wheel to wheel as they come out now into the Fangio corner, into turn 8. He's on top, surely. Hoffman with a nose in front, Lewis.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Watch out for Jürgen Frank as well, who might look for a little bit of a dive down the inside and doesn't quite fancy it himself in the Sim RC car. You've also got Quintin Violarte in the group as well. So 4 battling it out at the moment. Of course, our focus really on not only who wins this race, but also who is inside the top 15, who's going to be getting themselves a position in our bonus race, our final one of the season coming up after this. Another half hour of racing around this fantastic racetrack. And if you're not excited by that in prospect, just what are you doing? Because this race is fantastic. The high downforce package in a prototype with all of the slipstream to boot is incredible when it comes to the racing. Right now, though, Dominic Hoffman holding on from all of this group behind, should be able, based on the pace that we've seen from Hoffman, despite not having a great qualifying, should be able to pull away anyone who wants an update on our number 1, on our series champions, on our race winners of Road America as well. Unfortunately for Josh Rogers, he's in 24th spot, and I think even with 11 minutes left to go, I'd say that that is going to be a pretty tall order to rise their way up inside the top 15, even with the experienced teammate of Tommy Østgaard alongside him. That is, I think, a step too much into the impossible and unbelievable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a huge ask for him. Obviously, if you want to have your say at home as well, folks, not forgetting you do have the live chat here on this YouTube channel and obviously on this broadcast as well, whether you're watching on Twitch or on YouTube, of course. Please make sure you leave follows and also leave a like and a subscribe as well if you are watching on YouTube as well. Not forgetting, though, that straight after this broadcast, we will have a Twitter space going on as well. Please be sure to be there. It's known as the VCO ProSim Series Fallout, where we talk all things VCO, sim racing, whatever it may be, and we can talk today's action as well. So make sure you join us for that one as we rejoin the racing action. We're within the final 10 minutes, and I have to say, an aggressive bit of racing here now between these two that we're currently watching, the yellow livery, and certainly a cluster of them heading around the midfield. But there you can see the prosaic Dominic Hoffman now up 2 places from his original P10 spot, which is now owned by Jürgen Frank, with Martin van Luzenoord ahead of him. Here is Jürgen Frank now for Sim RC, and he's closing down on Luzenoord. Dominic Hoffman looking very, very comfortable indeed. Not long now until pit stops occur and driver changes, crucially enough, as well, Lewis.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just about where they're going to jump into the pit lane. Are they going to do it as early as possible? Well, MSI Esports already into the pit lane. Alejandro Sanchez for MSI Esports going to jump in and hand over to Niels Cox. So already a switch there as well. The number 20 also into the pit lane. That one is Charlie Collins. He'll be jumping out, and Mitchell de Jong will be in, Hoffman in. So we will see Max Verstappen behind the wheel in this race. Jürgen Frank, Naja also into the pit lane. So all of them diving down, taking the first opportunity to do so. Now, in the previous race, we did have someone rolling about a little bit too long for the pit window sequence. I don't think we'll see anyone playing those games this time. They've learned that mistake from even watching, and I don't think those are not things we normally see twice.
No, not normally. No, we try to avoid them, I think, as best we can. But watching now all of them head up onto the jacks. Of course, you can change tyres in this pit stop as well. So naturally, you'll see quite a few of them looking to opt onto a new set of tyres. But yes, quite a lot of them in the pit lane. Car number 47 immediately leaving the pit bay. And as they do so now, that is Alejandro Sanchez, who makes his way out onto the circuit. In behind as well, we got plenty of others leaving, and you can see them all out in tandem. There's Max Verstappen, folks. He is in the car, and he's ready to go. Of course, Team Redline looking to get another car into this bonus race. They've already got 2 cars after finishing a P1 and P2 in that previous outing. Incredible from Team Redline, and Maximilian Benecke, of course, sealing the ProSim Series title. But what an occasion to have the current Formula 1 championship leader, Max Verstappen, here with us for the VCO ProSim Series. I want to see your reactions in the live chat, folks. Hit them up. We want to see it.
Yeah, obviously seen Max Verstappen before in the VCO ProSim back in Season 1 last year, doing a few rounds there and doing fantastically alongside Max Benecke. This time, though, teaming up with Hoffman. They didn't want to split the pairing, of course, of Benecke and Lulham, who are such a fantastic driver lineup between them. So why not leave them as they are, leave them to win the championship together, nice and easy, as into the pit lane comes the number 99 Apex Racing team. Jamie Fluke, you've also got BS Competition, Rainer Talva, also going to to come to a stop. Obviously saw loads of other switches. Felix Luding's jumped in for SimRC. This is just how it goes at this point in the race. It's a bit crazy in pit lane, and trust me, if we were doing pit stops legitimately with everyone making contact in the pit lane, I'm pretty sure we'd have a very crash-happy time in the lane here at Sebring. Thankfully, though, contact is off and all is well and good. Is anyone going to jump anyone in the pit lane sequence? And more importantly, once they return to the racetrack, will Apex Racing Team return with the lead that they had, or will it be shrunk down slightly? Taylor Barnard behind the wheel of the Apex Racing Team car. BS Competition, Phil Denez out onto the racetrack, and they are separated by around, I think it's actually gone out a little bit. I think it might be closer to 3 seconds.
Yeah, I believe so, and we're just seeing now Taylor Barnard still in P1 for now. That gap currently sitting, I believe, at 2.7 seconds, so he's going to hold on to the lead for now. Phil Dents for BS Competition into second place. Nils Koch in P3. Mitchell de Jong is now swapped in for Charlie Collins. He's in P4 right now. Sage Karam in 5th. Raoul Hyman, former Formula 3 driver, in P6 for Team VRS. Johnny Gundy in for Yas Heat in P7, taking over from Ross Woodford. Team Redline's Max Verstappen in 8th spot as well, and he's going to try and work his way up the field as well. I am sure his gap is currently at 1.1 seconds, just springing out to 1.2, but we've still got plenty of racing still to go. Well over 5.5 minutes remaining, as we're now going to get into the tasty moment of this race, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say Johnny Gindy nearly made contact with the rear end of Raoul Hyman. Gindy's more of one of the pro drivers that we've got on the grid who's very much a sim expert, winning a couple of championships last year in sim racing. A fantastic driver. Normally see him elsewhere in sim racing, also on Assetto Corsa in the slightly more recent past, but obviously is plenty fast enough on the iRacing platform as well, and is a fantastic driver. But now with a couple of drivers ahead that he won't want to clear off the road, as he so closely did into the hairpin this time by 2 Team VRS cars. Will say from the pit lane sequence that obviously coming in a little bit earlier, Charlie Collins handing over to de Jong. The gap between de Jong, or rather the number 20 car and the number 16 car, has gone up exponentially. It was around about 1 second pre-pit stop, and now much bigger than that, as we'll see this battle for 13th. Fabrice Cornelis and Ariel all battling it out, as looking back to the inside was the number 88. That was going to be a bit of a dicey move. Does look now to the outside, rather the 888 looks to the outside of T1. Is it going to make that one stick? But might be to the inside of 2.
Yeah, Fabrice Cornelius now under pressure. In they come now round the next left-hander. Impulse Racing certainly need to use all their impulses to stay out in front now in 13th spot, but still holds on for now. Gustavo Ariel, though, not leaving that rear end alone whatsoever, but he has got friends of his own now popping up through as they make their way down through towards the next right-hander, as we're now seeing them riding on board with currently Gustavo Ariel. Alex Dunn right in behind as well in 15th spot for Logitech Gialtis Esports as they make their way through turns 8, 9 at Fangio, and very shortly into turn 10 as well. Taylor Barnard still out in front with Phil Dent trying to close the gap, 2.6. It's currently stagnating right now, and I just want to point out as well, Johnny Gwindy is right in this fight, but look who's behind them. Max Verstappen coming to join the fight as well. He's within 0.3 of a second as well in this fight. Sensational stuff, Lewis.
Yeah, absolutely. The fight that we were focused on there, obviously in that battle for 15th spot, as we refocus our attention on Max Verstappen, just on the rear end of Johnny Gindy, who's dropped off the rear end of those Team PRS cars. He's started to clutch his way back into it, but keep your eye now as we head out of Le Mans corner down towards Sunset and that return to T1. This is where the slipstream is in full effect. I'm still pretty sure that the Azheat car of Gindy is getting enough of a work, as there goes Verstappen straight down the inside. There's going to be a little bit of contact. Gindy had to turn out of that one just a little bit, as Verstappen absolutely fires it in. Mitchell de Jong with the fastest lap of the race as he closes down on the podium.
Not quite the downforce of a Formula 1 car, but that doesn't stop Max Verstappen. A polarising effort heading around Sunset Bend at turn 17. Incredible indeed. Now up into P7 for Team Redline, and he's now going to chase on the car in P6. That's Raoul Hyman. Ironically, who also has a history in single-seaters as well, as he now come through the next right-hander now this time. Car number 6, Verstappen chasing after Raoul Hyman, and that gap is starting to come down again slightly. Verstappen on a charge, 7.5 tenths per second, behind of Raul Hyman, who's currently holding on to 6, chasing down Sage Karam. But what a move. We haven't seen one quite like it in this race so far, Lewis. That was sensational, wasn't it? 750 brake horsepower, he used all of it.
Yeah, definitely had confidence in the brakes as we'll go back down to the battle for 10th place as we've got the Sim RC of Felix Luding defending from the number 80 R8G Esports car of D'Tulio, who's gone around the outside. That is superb. Fantastic stuff for the R8G car to pick that move up. That was brilliant.
Yeah, newly signed as well. Crucially, he had his first appearance for RHG Esports last week in round 3 and has marked his reappearance again in this round with an audacious overtake. And that is how you do it, folks. We've got another battle going on in behind as well. Gustavo Ariel managing to find his way through as well, past Alex Dunn for Logitech Gialtis Esports. He's dropped back slightly from Fabrice Cornelius, but the RHG team enjoying a couple of overtakes now already. And incidentally, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more than currently nose to tail yet again. Nothing separates them now as we're seeing Alex Dunn move out wide as they come through towards the next right-hander yet again. Fabrice Cornelius, should I say, running out a little bit wide, trying to hug to the inside. And again, they can just see them hopping over the circuit around the final corner at turn 17. And as they head down towards turn 1, it just goes to show how bobbly this circuit really is.
Yeah, you can really see the movers looking to the inside. There was Gustavo Ariel trying to get down the inside of Fabrice Cornelius. Oh, running a little bit wide there was Alex Dunn. Might have opened the door for Alex Samolia to get down the inside, but it was covered off nicely from the Logitech Gialtis Esports driver. There goes Triton straight down the inside. Eyes it up, doesn't get there. It was spotted beautifully from Dunn, and that move certainly wasn't done. And so we'll have to hang on, maybe dive it down the inside of the hairpin. All we know is that someone is going to be very disappointed from this group. 15th and 16th, battling it out on the road. Keep your eye as well for Urano Esports as Sandy Mitchell is closing in as well and might well get himself involved in that fight for 15th spot. That is a pretty intense battle as the checker flag is being prepared. This is getting pretty nervy.
It is getting quite nervy, and you would not, but certainly please expect, folks, for them to go all out, because they all want to spot in this final race of the championship, the bonus race that is coming up after this one. The top 15 go through. Verstappen has just overtaken Raul Hyman, and there you can see him now in P6. 2 moves since he's entered the car. Max Verstappen's on a charge. They head down the straight yet again, and a great opportunity, an opportunistic move, but Taylor Barnard coming around the final corner for Apex Racing Team. He's going to take the W. The smile on his face. It's Taylor Barnard. He'll take victory for Apex Racing Team. A great effort. The early gap showed to be fruitful, and they have taken the W in race 2 of round 4.
Yeah, Taylor Barnard, and of course, we cannot forget the stint that Jamie Fluke did at the start of that race. Absolutely sensational for the Apex Racing team, number 99. Same with the 89 of BS competition. Superb stuff. Fastest lap of the race coming in from Phil Denez, and then Niels Koch as well for MSI Esports taking over Alejandro Sanchez. Brilliant stuff from our podium once more. Another superb race, but much like it was in the first race, we'll see those final drag races towards the line. It was a dominant display from our race leaders.
It was a tremendous dominating display, and very much mirrored what certainly what they were doing at Team Redline, that's for sure. Taylor Barnard, folks, your winner, and for the Apex Racing team, and they're going to take the lion's share of the points in this race. Phil Dens for BS competition in 2nd, with Niels Koch in P3 for MSI. Mitchell de Jong, after replacing Charlie Collins, moves into P4 for Coanda Sim Sport. Another good race for them. Sage Karam in P5 for Team VRS. Max Verstappen finished in P6 for Team Redline. Raul Hyman finishing in 7th for Team VRS. Johnny Gwindy in 8th for Yas Heat. Hugh Barter in 9th for RAG Esports. Alexei Nezov rounds off the top 10, and he completes it for Urano Simsport.
Got RAG Esports just inside that top 15 with SimRC, Impulse Racing, and that fantastic battle that we saw between the Impulse Racing car, Fabrice Cornelius, Gustavo Ariel for RAG, Alex Dunn for Logitech Gialtis Esports, and said someone was going to be disappointed in that group. Ended up being Alexander Samolia and Sandy Mitchell, who jumped in the final moments for Triton Racing and Urano Esports, respectively. We did see Danny Morad, unfortunately not inside that top 15 for Moradness E-Stars, and then the private label Team Hype car with SRC Movano Corsa. They're going to have to deal with just one car in the final.
Certainly will. Manuel Kubo Torres for MSI Esports finishing in 21st. Team VRS, Tommy Ostgaard in 22nd. Tony Kanan in 23rd for Samsoid Kanan Esports. Ramez Azam for Racecraft Esports in 24th. Bradley Philpotts in 25th for Williams Esports Bank. Thomas Kareni in P26. Jersey Glack in P27 for Triton Racing. And Vasilios Baleziotis in P28.
And what a race it was. Another fantastic one. And that run, it all started with that run to turn one. The Apex Racing team, Jamie Fluke, managed to clear off. We'll catch what happened to our champions of last season. Just pinched in the middle of the track. And unfortunately, their day was done before it even really began. Everyone tripping up over each other down towards the bottom end of the top 20. And once again, the tripping over would happen. Always the case around Sebring, though, is it can just be a little bit disastrous. And that is exactly what happened to Williams Esports BenQ.
Yeah, they certainly have had a very trying time in the series, but great to see them out on track nevertheless. But what a display, certainly, as we now see another incident. Oh, blimey, that's going to take the skin off your nose a little bit as they come through the next left again. We're seeing yet more close battling heading around the next right. It was sensational, wasn't it? Certainly, we did mention that first sector heading into the second sector being the prevalent point coming into turn 5 out of turn 3 and 4. We saw quite a few incidents at that point. And then, of course, turn 14, 15, turn 16 seemed to be quite prevalent. That's another one being run wide. I mean, the circuit looks wide, Lewis, but if you look at it, when you put an LMP2 there, they're quite meaty machines. It takes up a lot of that space quite quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly can become a little bit tricky to navigate, as seeing plenty of those battles between SimRC and RHG. RHG going around the outside, attempting it on the impulse car. Wasn't able to make that one stick. And then this absolutely phenomenal move from Max Verstappen down the inside of Johnny Gindy. Gindy saw it coming, had to turn out of it ever so slightly and managed to continue on. But a great move from Max Verstappen. Battles, though, for that sort of 13th, 14th, 15th battle, where it's all really important for those final positions, those final transfer spots. More moves coming in, final laps of the race. Verstappen made the move stick, but our focus was up the order. And for our race winners, Tyner Barnard and Jamie Fluke, it was absolutely incredible, it must be said. A truly dominant display. We do have Jamie Fluke, the man of track maps, alongside us. Jamie, talk us about the start of that race. That was absolutely superb.
Yeah, honestly, a bit of a surprise that I was able to get away and pull the gap that I managed to pull. Luckily, the guys behind started to fight, and I was able to have a bit of a breather, really. As soon as I could see that there was 1.5 to 2 seconds of a gap, it's like, okay, I've got this hopefully in hand. And then once Alejandro wasn't like steaming up behind me immediately, then I realized, okay, right, we've got this under control. And yeah, just took it safe and sensible from there, and yeah, picked up the win.
Now, talk us how difficult this car is to drive around this track. It's quite a stiff car at the best times, and when you counter that with the bumps at places like Sunset and T1, it's not easy.
No, certainly not. There is, as you say, you know, the bumps do really throw the car about quite a bit, and especially with the setup that we have for the car. You know, it's something that works kind of for all tracks, but it's maybe not super suited to Sebring in terms of, you know, bump handling and such. So there's a lot that can go wrong. So yeah, had to exercise just a little bit of caution there, but it was the same for everyone. So yeah, it worked out nicely for us.
And obviously one more race coming up, our bonus race, which you're obviously in with that kind of victory. Did you keep your eye on race 1, seeing that drive from Max Benecke and Chris Lulham? How confident are you that you can match them and even beat them?
I didn't quite get catching any of it. I was trying to, you know, get myself prepared for my own race here. But, you know, them boys are very, very fast, very, very talented drivers. So, you know, if we can beat them, that would be great, but it would be no shame in not beating them at the same time. So we'll see how it goes. We'll take it one step, one corner at a time, and do the best that we can.
Well, cheers, Jamie. George, though, has Taylor Barnard.
Taylor, how are you? I got to say, your smile was a picture heading across the line. You looked thrilled. Just talk us through your emotions as you crossed the line there.
Yeah, well, it being my first big race, to come away with a victory is incredible, especially in the heat. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what to say. I'm speechless.
Well, I gotta say, you sound it certainly, but not only, I suppose, is it your first championship or first major championship win, but also the first one for Apex Racing in this championship as well this season. So just talk about that. I mean, how big is that for the team?
Well, I'm very new to the team, so I'm sure it means a lot, and especially as a rookie driver, I'm very happy to take the win.
Yeah, and just talk about how it feels to be lining up on a grid with Max Verstappen. Of course, he was in your stint. How did it feel to have such a notable racing driver joining a field of accomplished sim racers and racing professionals as well? It must have been a thrill.
Yeah, to see highly ranked racing drivers like Max is an honour to race against them, really, and to come away with the win is, it's astonishing. I'm very happy. I'd like to say thanks to Jamie, because he left it with me on the plate, I just had to bring it home, so thank you to Jamie and all the team. It was great.
Well, hopefully you both can bring it home again in the bonus race. We'll wish you the very best of luck and congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow, absolutely superb stuff. Another fantastic race ticked off, but lads, there's just one more.
Oh, Ben!
No!
There we go. Tick. I did wonder why no one was speaking. I was like, oh, have I done something wrong?
I was about to crack a joke about how big Taylor Barnard's headphones were, but at least he can operate a microphone. See, the boys. The problem is back in the day when you're in the real world, there's a technician that does it for you, but in this world, you have to do everything for yourself. So I'm out of practice. We are in our chat zone area. Not a lot of time to chat, but a couple of things we want to tick off. And first of all, the VCO Simi Awards. We've chatted about that the last couple of weeks, and there are 13 categories. But there was a bit of a storm that was thrown up, Arjuna, over last week when everything was announced. And so we now have 14. Tell us more.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that VCO's focus, since it kind of came into the sim racing world, has been road racing and really embracing everything that we have, multi-disciplines, multi-class racing, so many different things that they're a part of. But some of the community, the iRacing community, felt a bit underrepresented. So thanks to the passion of the oval community, there is now a 14th category, the best oval racer of the year. It's great to have some of the community support from those guys as well. 5 nominees: Michael Cozy Jr., who's had a breakout year in 2021, Brandon Treno, who is the king of the bricks, 3-time consecutive iRacing Indy 500 winner, Keegan Leahy, of course, your eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series champion for Coanda Simsport, Robbie Lyons, and Austin Farr, who, I'll be honest, 2 names I don't know too much about, but Robbie Lyons has been successful in the Monday Night Racing Series, which is very similar to what we do here, where we bring real-world races to the sim. We have an eclectic group of drivers. That's what they do as well on Monday nights in Monday Night Racing. 5 very worthy winners. There were plenty of nominees thrown around on Twitter. I'm just going to be honest, though, because if I don't, I'm going to get in trouble with the IndyCar community. Vote for Brandon Treno, because 3-time iRacing Indy 500 champion. He's won all the major Indy 500s this year in 2021 on the iRacing service. Go and vote for him.
You crook.
I don't want to get in trouble. Plus, I want to get a look at Team I5G qualifying setup for the iRacing Indy 500.
Isn't this what makes iRacing so special, though, Lewis? That I mean, and I know that the VCO Sim Awards are not supposed to be about iRacing only, but okay, I'll throw it out there. I'll make it more general. Isn't this what's great about sim racing generally? Is you can do anything you want to do. I could never drive a rallycross car in the real world, but I can in sim racing. And so if we are talking simmies, we should be talking about dirt racing, oval racing, and all these different type of categories.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got so many types of disciplines in racing. It's one of the beautiful things with esports that you can learn all of them. If you're a road circuit specialist, I'd always recommend go and do some oval stuff. Hey, go and download Richard Burns Rally and go and do some classic rally stuff.
Got to mod it up, though, right?
You do, yeah. You get RBR Pro. It does make things a bit easier. But learn the different disciplines because it helps overall. You improve as a driver everywhere if you start learning in the different disciplines. However, we know that there are those that focus solely on those disciplines. And I feel they should be represented in their own certain category. So I'm all for it. I mean, I'd love to see your dirt road. I'd love to see a rally list of seeing the best sim racing rally drivers and all that one day. Of course, that's maybe a little bit of a trek of a lot of lists, but it's a whole complete field that we can do.
Lewis, you know what you've just done? We had the storm of oval racing last week, and now we're going to have the storm. I don't know how many dirt sim racers are out there to create a Twitter storm, but if you're out there, let's see how many you are. And perhaps
you can something like us.
You don't want to antagonize the dirt community. I can say that for sure with experience.
With 15 categories, that's easy. I mean, to be fair, I present in a dirt category, both virtually and in the real world, so I should be flying that flag. And George, if you look at it as a whole, motorsport is about driving a car. It doesn't matter what surface, right?
No, yeah. I mean, you know, there's so many terms in the world of motorsport and different platforms and everything, and each of them have their own incredible merit. You've got drivers that are so accomplished in all different fields, and it's amazing. And certainly for events such as this, the VCO ProSim, we get to see them all from different walks of life taking part in this series, which is mega. You know, having drivers from real world situs, whether they're driving Formula 1 cars, Formula E cars, whether they're driving touring cars, or they could be you know, in sim racing driving those cars as well. So it's amazing. It brings it all together. There's no boundaries, and that's what we love. You can make these fantasy lineups. That's what I think special about it.
And you can do it all on iRacing as well. If you want to do rally cross, you can do rally cross. You can do stadium super trucks. You can do oval racing, and you can of course do circuit racing, or you can mix it up and try and drive a Lotus 79 around a stadium super truck track if you really wanted to. There's endless possibilities on iRacing. There's our plug for the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Do love myself a bit of trying random stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to call them stadium super trucks though. We may get in some legal trouble.
Oh, really?
Yes, they're not stadium super trucks on iRacing.
Oh, no.
That's true. They are. They're what stadium super trucks are based upon.
Yes.
Pro trucks and pro lights or whatever. Either way, they're really, really cool and horrible to drive in VR. Right, let's move on because we know we haven't got very much time here. VCO are nuts, basically. They were nuts to put on this huge plethora of racing with real and virtual drivers. 70-odd cars per week. They were nuts to put 4 commentators together on one screen and try not to have any issues with sound, for instance. And they are still pushing the barriers and moving things forward. And the next nuts idea is VCO Infinity. They call it an innovation. It is going to be a 24-hour race. That's not innovation. Well, it is, Lewis, isn't it? Because it's not a 24-hour race like you and I know.
Yeah, it's 24-hour races. Well, they're more 50-minute races with a little bit of a break in between, but the idea being that it's about having sprint races. I love sprint races, absolutely do. Think of it like a condensed championship. We'll do it all over one day, 24 hours. You get yourselves teams, you come along with mates, you go, you can do that race. I'm going to go for I'm going to go for a bit of sleep. But it's the intensity. It's like going for, an endurance race, sure, but where you're constantly reset. You're constantly under safety car and having to restart and having to battle every single hour. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be fantastic.
It's an interesting concept because it is a concept, George, I think we've seen before, but in a kind of an arcadey way. When Le Mans first started doing their esports relationships, they did something similar on Forza at the Le Mans circuit where you had lots of different races. But the beauty about doing on iRacing, like we've just spoken about, is you could do it across different disciplines as well.
Yeah, and it's so flexible. And like we said before, look, talking about iRacing and having different drivers from different walks of life and bringing them all together, that is what you can essentially do. And the benefit of it is that it's high intensity. It doesn't stop. 50 minutes of racing with 10 minutes break. It's just non-stop action. It's crazy, changing cars and tracks all the time. 4 drivers per team. You've all got to work it between yourselves. It's going to be a test of stamina, a test of strength, and a test of durability, I suppose, at the end of the day.
Arjuna, I feel as though we've been dragged in sim racing towards endurance racing. So much support for the GT3 category, whether it be on iRacing or other platforms. Lots of Le Mans spec series where you get together with your mates. So with this, you are kind of moving away from that and and putting the emphasis, like we've done on the VCO ProSim, on sprint races.
And flexibility as well. I think that's the crucial thing, right? Because you may not be as quick in one car as another, but knowing when you can attack and when you can really get the maximum result from each of these 24 individual sprints is going to be interesting. I'm just a bit more concerned. George was mentioning durability. How's it going to work for us commentators and our poor voices? 24 race starts and 24 finishes as well.
I'm called Ben Constant Durus for a reason. It means constant durability.
Love it.
And there's been plenty of jokes at school about that. 7th and 8th of May 2022 is when we plan on it. To be honest, this is kind of the presentation to you as the community, as the teams and drivers. Do you think it's a good idea? Are we completely balmy? Do you want to take part? Make sure you get in touch with us on our Twitter handles, on Discord. Chat to our boss. Give him some stick for this silly idea. And let's see if we can actually make this happen. I'm very, very curious. I'd love to see it where we have an oval race, where we have a NASCAR and an IndyCar, where we have a rallycross race, where we have different disciplines across it, as well as the more traditional circuit racing. And let's mix it up. Let's use the old cars on new circuits and the new cars on the old circuits. I think it's got some legs.
But how do you build a team? That's the question. How do you build a team, right? 4 drivers, that's all you're allowed. So many different options on iRacing. Do you have an oval specialist? Do you have a rallycross specialist? Do you want a dirt specialist at all? So much to think about.
Well, you have to wait until see what kind of crazy ideas that they come up with the schedule. But you're right.
They should make it a surprise. They don't tell you until the checkered flag.
I agree with that.
Oh my God.
Surprise!
We're here for chaos.
Actually, and VCO have history in doing that, right? Because the whole point of the VCO ProSim is that the circuit is not announced until 15 minutes before, so nobody can practice. So you're not having to invest too much time in setups and all the rest of it. So to be honest, I can see that happening. I think we've got to go racing soon. It's one final race for VCO ProSim for 2021. It's a bit of a shame that we are ending so quickly, but an intense 4-round championship across November. And we are finishing with a massive highlight with Max Verstappen in our grid, qualified for the bonus race. He is qualifying and will take the first stint of our bonus race. He might even bag himself a bit of a check. I don't know where he'll put that money or if it will even touch the sides. But it's great to have him with us. Thank you so much to Redline and everybody for getting that across the line. And remember, we will be on Twitter Spaces at the end of this race to chat all things VCO ProSim. And we will be switching channels to go to World EX and their final on our Factor 2 when we finish this broadcast. But it is now time, I think, or soon time, to go racing for the bonus race at Sebring.
Well, here we go. One final 30-minute showdown in the Sunshine State, the bumpy Sebring International Raceway. Qualifying is just getting underway, so as mentioned before, drivers have the track to themselves. 1 lap. That's all they get. Pressure is on, and unlike what we saw in the heat races, it will be the pro drivers who will be taking qualifying duties. Arjuna alongside with Lewis for one final time, the last dance in 2021, Lewis, and I cannot wait for this one, given what we've seen so far over the course of the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had a fantastic evening of racing so far in Heat 1 and Heat 2. We've had a fantastic season of racing over this November, but it all comes to a close with this one final race. The championship's sorted, we all get to relax. Is that going to make things a bit cleaner, a bit tamer? I don't think so. I think we are going all out for that prize money. It should be sensational, but it all starts with the qualifying sessions, you said, which is probably about as hard as it gets when it comes to qualifying. 1 off track, 1 half spin off the road, picking up a little bit too much grass, lap and session done.
I tell you what, we're going to get an onboard look with Max Verstappen here around Sebring, and he's quick in whatever you put him in, but I think about what we saw from Mr. Verstappen at the iRacing Patila Mall, powered by VCO. If not for a hardware failure for Verstappen's teammate Diogo Pinto, he would have been a VCO Grand Slam winner. But we'll take a look at the Sebring International Raceway with a current F1 points leader across the start-finish line. Here we go for a lap here at Sebring International Raceway. 3.5 miles in length, turn 1, very high commitment, down 2 gears, almost to the wall on the inside. Watch the outside, don't run yourself off into the gravel, and get yourself steeled up for the braking at turn number 3. Watch the curbs on the inside and the outside because they can really spit you around violently, but set yourself up out of turn 5 to get the power down and run yourself through Big Ben into one of your primary passing opportunities. It's a heavy braking zone at the hairpin, but it's a bumpy braking zone, so make sure you don't lock up as you find your braking on the left-hand side. 3 cones denote the braking marker. A flat curb on the inside minimizes the distance as you power yourself down in through Fangio through turns 8 and 9, scene of so much chaos in iRacing history, and in towards Cunningham Corner. You can say it about every braking zone, but this one is crucial because it's even bumpier than you'd expect, and there's that anti-curb, the curb on the inside ready to spit you around if you're not careful. Verstappen looks calm and collected, much different to what we see when myself or Lewis is driving, and in towards Tower Corner, which is crucial to build your momentum and build the run in towards turn number 15. Bishop is flat out left-hand kink. No multi-class traffic to deal with today. Watch the curb on the inside though, you'll get a slowdown penalty if you cut it too much. Opposite to what you'll see on the left-hand side here, where Verstappen uses all of the track on offer to sweep his way through Le Mans, uses the curb to build the momentum down into the Altman Straight. One chance to steal yourself, get a drink of water, breathe for just a moment, because in through Sunset Bend, you'll start the roller coaster all over again, fly your way through the corner. Bumpy on the inside, bumpy on the outside. Where do you position the car? So many different lines to be taken, but if you're not careful, into the grass, into the tire barrier, you'll end up Chris Lulham, 1:46.431 the time to beat Verstappen, a 46.318 provisional pole to the number 6 car.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic lap. Nice and clean there from Max Verstappen, just ahead of Chris Lulham, as we'll see Nicholas Vayron towards the line. Let's see what he can pop onto the leaderboard of 46.829. That'll put him up inside. Wow, a large contingent of RHG Esports, by the way. Got 3 of them very, very close on my screen, but all very tight on that leaderboard. 1/10 clear, though, Verstappen ahead of Lulham. I would not necessarily have predicted that.
But that's why we love Max, right? No, it doesn't need much practice. He'll just show up and go quick. It's great. Redline, BS competition, RHG, Yassi, and Team VRS. Those are the cars in the top 10. Sage Karam, the final car with Gustas Grinbergas, 0.02 of a second off behind him. The top 20 separated by 1 full second. We're on board with Mitchell de Jong, who is not going to have enough time to set a qualifying lap time, because time is about to expire, and that will boot him off the track as we'll get ready to go racing for the final time in the 2021 VCO Pro Sim Series. Well, if you thought the heats were exciting, just get ready for what we're about to see, because the pro drivers, they'll be on the grid for the start. They've already had some, let's call it discussions, about how clean the starts have been in previous races. Lewis, I think this is going to be fascinating.
Yeah, I hope that they remain clean through the opening sector, because it is very, very tricky through there. You've got this exceptionally fast turn 1, which we're looking at there, down into the braking zone through 2 and 3, and it all just tightens up so much. The concertina effect, you're always going to trip over a couple of cars. Trying to give space to everyone is always very, very difficult, and it's why it's so important to start from the front couple of rows here, because then the likelihood of you tripping over people is so much lower. And it's one of those circuits which we've spoken about before. I either want to start at the front of the grid or the back of the grid. I do not want to start in the middle, because that is where it gets really chaotic.
And that's where Mitchell de Jong will find himself. But here's a look at the starting grid for the 30-minute finale of the VCO Pro Sim Series. It's a red line front row. Verstappen makes a return to Pro Sim competition. He'll be alongside already crowned champion Chris Lulham, with Phil Denez and Alessandro De Tullio, BS competition and RHG 3rd and 4th positions. 3 RHG cars in the top 6. It will be Gustavo Ariel in the AAA alongside Nicholas Vayron on the outside of row 3.
Enzo Benito from 7th position alongside Johnny Guindy, who is getting hard racing with one of the Redline drivers, that one being Max Verstappen in the previous race. Then Hugh Barter makes it 4 RHG drivers inside the top 10, lining up alongside Sage Karam in the Team VRS car. Gustas Grinbergas finished 2nd in Heat 1. They'll have to start from 11th place in this, alongside Alex Dunn in the Logitech Gialtas Esports car.
Newly signed Alex Dunn to Altus Esports, while Bruno Spengler returns to BS competition and sim racing duties alongside Taylor Barnard, who incorrectly registered that car, but they'll still be racing here today. Sindre Setsource and Elliot Vayron 15th and 16th positions, with Arthur LeHook and Maritz Lohner, who did have a pretty strong drive at the close of heat number 2. completing the top 18.
Great drive in the previous race with Niels Koch in the MSI Esports car. Number 47 is going to have to start from 19th place alongside Alejandro Sanchez. Alexei Nesov in 20th position for Urano Esports. Robbie Foley for BS Turner, that's one that you're going to be looking out for, starting from 21st spot with Team VRS. Triton Racing, Alex Mollier just got through into the race in the final couple of positions after that car was escorted off the road. They're alongside Felix Luding in 24th spot.
25th goes to Beitskavitsa with the Protostar Racing Team number 33 alongside. Brian Lockwood had some physical contact to work his way into the bonus race, one of the last cars to set a qualifying lap time. He'll be alongside Will Tregurther, Mitchell de Jong, Norby Kiss. 30 cars, the only two not to set a qualifying lap time, runs us through the grid for one final showdown here in the Sunshine State. It's bumpy, it's treacherous, it's Sebring International Raceway. I guess the main question is how many cars are around and through turn number 1?
Yeah, I mean, as much as I say that I don't want to see it, because obviously we don't want to see it. We want to see everyone going out there racing nice and clean. Will we see it though? Well, if I were a betting man, I would be solidly putting a bet on at least 2 or 3 cars being backwards in the opening sector. It's just so difficult, especially with 30 cars. There's someone in that mid-pack that's just going to get tripped over. It's always how it goes around here. You just hope it's not you.
And remember, this is the race that pays out the more prize money. It was $200 for victory in the heat, $500 for each of the drivers in the bonus race here, all the way down to prize money for 15th position. There are points still up for grabs, but it's really academic because, of course, the championship is decided. Benecke and Lulham will be walking away with some hardware, some very nice mementos to go with that as well. Who will take the final checkered flag of the season? We're about to find out. Lewis, quick time for some predictions. Which way are you going?
Oh, yeah, no, unfortunately, I'm going to go dead boring on this one. I think the number 6 Team Redline car, Max Verstappen, is going to come out on top. But I will say the number 11 continuing on with its trend, finishing 1st and 2nd in every race this season. That is going to come in behind. We're going to have a Redline 1-2.
Will Mystic Lulu show up, or will it be the commentator's curse, which you put
Probably
down on Chris Lulham this past Sunday? But one final time, we are ready to race. Redline 1 and 2. Max Verstappen gets the final race of the VCO ProSim Series in 2021 underway. Green flag is out in the Sebring International Raceway. Here comes the move between the RHG cars side by side into turn 1. 1, 2, and 3, single file through turn number 1.
Yeah, Enzo Benito, though, just saw him there picking up one of the RHG cars in the background as we start the braking zone for T3 as well. There was Logitech Gialtas Esports who were making a little bit of a dive to the inside. Everyone seeming so far so good. Running up towards turn 5. I hope that's not a jinx as there is a little bit of contact. Just saw Benito getting picked up a little bit there from the RHG car.
Anti-commentator's curse, all 30 cars still going as into the hairpin they storm. Under the bridge they'll go, almost fanning out 3 abreast. Single file between the top 7. Raid as Arthur LeHook becomes the first victim of the day.
You had to say that is also a pretty not great rejoin from Arthur LeHook for the Williams Esports Razor car. Everyone did well up to the hairpin, but the hairpin where everyone slows down so much to get into that tight right-hander. Just a little bit of contact further back. I'm sure we'll see that one once more. BS Competition, though, doing as we like to see from them as Set Source has been round. BS Competition on the attack for the lead.
And while you were talking about unsafe rejoins, fortunately for Set Source, no cars to come into his path as down into the penultimate couple of corners there will come some moves further back in the pack as well. I'm seeing Brian Lockwood sliding down my timing screen. So they got through the first sector okay, but it was in the hairpin that chaos began to ensue. I think I saw Sage Karam running a bit wide as well coming into the final corner. Here we come into the Elman Straight and down in towards Sunset Bend. Verstappen leads away from Chris Lulham, a quarter of a second between them. Phil Denez, who is always quick no matter what car you put him in, but traditionally in a GT car, at least for BS Competition, chases them down. Alessandro Di Tullio leads the charge for RAG, with Nicholas Vayron completing the top 5.
Yeah, let's see what Phil Denez can do about the 2 red lines ahead, because you always feel like you're the underdog. Oh, Robbie Foley's round. That's such a shame for BS Turner. It was very fitting to see that car reach the final around here. Unfortunately, it's not really going to go much further in this one.
No, but this LMP2 car does take damage quite well, so would not be entirely surprised if we see them back out on track. SimRC and MSI Esports I'm seeing as well on the timing screen, dueling it out between the 2 of them. Interesting to note that Niels Koch, who usually races with the BS Competition, driving with the MSI Esports team. That's one of the other beautiful things about this series, is that you have these unique driver lineups. We were talking about Gustas Grinbergas, usually represent Simsa Esports, now with Redline for these 4 races in the month of November in our 2021 VCO ProSim Series. Always great to have some interesting combinations as more movement going on. Sage Karam is being passed by Alex Dunn, the young Australian who finds himself now up into 9th position. There is the Altus Esports car coming under fire from Karam, who did win 3 races in a row in Nitro Rallycross next competition. Trying to fight for a championship there, but his hopes came a little bit unstuck this past weekend as they went racing in Southern California. So one more round for Karam to go as a driver that we usually see in IndyCar competition tries some different things out. He was in NASCAR racing late in 2021 and now sliding around on the dirt as well.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to give everything a go. I said before, you got to try everything to make yourself as much of a complete driver in all forms as possible. But Sage Karam does have to watch out for Gustas Grinbergas, who is sat very, very close to him for Team Redline. That they'll want to move up a little bit. Let's see what happened to Sindre Setsaw. So he's down the inside. A little bit of a hip check there from the Coanda car. I believe, I was going to say it was Mitchell de Jong, but it certainly wasn't. And there's some further contact on will be the number 30 that Moritz Lerner is driving to make contact with him.
And then Brian Lockwood coming in through the right-hand sweepers just gets turned around by the Williams Esports car. Of course, LeHook had his own issue into the hairpin at turn number 7 on lap number 1. Then what happens to Raul Hyman here? Just looks all steady coming in through to Le Mans corner. And that car clearly sideways before he even got to the apex. Here's what happened to Robbie Foley. Squeezes one of the SRC Movano cars and just gets pinched around and spun around by the cars coming through.
Not an expert, but I think there, I've said it a few times, I think there might have been a little bit of air between them on the departure of that corner, but kind of you do need to give a little bit more room. Bitskavissa went for a spin on the front end of Arthur LeHouk, unfortunately, so further contact. We've had a lot happen over the first couple of laps of the race. We had a great first few corners, and then it all started kicking off.
Arthur LeHouk's been mixed up in it here today.
Yeah, quite a few. That's a third. Hopefully it's a third and final.
Yes, hopefully third time's the charm, as Race Control says no further action for contact between the 76 of Williams Esports Razor and the number 90 machine. That would have been, I would assume, on turn 1 between him. Oh no, that was with Biteskavista, so that was the incident that we just saw. So that's the great thing about Race Control. They've been right on top of the action across of the month of November. Big thanks to Ricardo Edelman and the rest of his team, making sure that if you get a little bit physical on track, you are going to pay the price. Meanwhile, a bit of a breakaway starting to build. The top 4 pulling away 2 seconds the gap between Tullio and now Gustavo Ariel, who has passed his R8G counterpart as they work through Sunset Bend. Is now on Gustavo Ariel's shoulders to try and pull forward. We've seen him be quick, both here in the VCO ProSim Series, but also in BMW Sim GT Cup competition.
Yeah, absolutely. A fantastic driver, but that is a big, big gap that the top 4 have been able to pull. It was nice from his teammate Nicholas Vayron, who didn't defend going into Sunset, but does need to defend coming down into T3 because Enzo Benito, that was close for Benito, just taking, very close to taking a chunk out of that R8G Esports car. Wasn't able to do so, and then Johnny Gindi for Yazheat is sat waiting in the wings as it's still 3 R8G drivers running 4th through 6th. Great showing from that team at the moment, showing exactly what we knew they could do. But like I say, I think that gap might be a little bit too large unless they all start battling ahead, which, let's be honest, it's likely to happen.
It is likely to happen. Also confirmation drive-through penalty for Moritz Lohner in the number 30 Coanda SimSport car as we ride on board with Enzo Benito, who did race here this past weekend in that BMW Sim GT Cup finale. Came together with Phil Denez on lap 1 at Sebring, and from there, both drivers out of the chance of fighting for their share of $70,000 paid out across just 45 minutes of racing. What an incredible weekend we had in BMW Sim Live competition. Josh Rogers walking away $25,000 richer. Consecutive wins for him in BMW Sim Live competition. Not being the easiest defense for both Rogers and his teammate Ian Chan Guven as they compete here in this 2021 VCO ProSim Series. No Ian Chan Guven today. Instead, Josh Rogers was paired with Tommy Oscar, but we didn't even see Tommy get behind the wheel before the number 1 car had some major significant drama, riding on board with Gustas Grinbergas as the 49-inch ultra-wide monitor at his disposal. Always interesting to see the different setups that these drivers had. By the way, fastest lap of the race, punched in last time around, a 1:46.458. And guess who? None other than Max Verstappen.
Yeah, a sensational opening stint from Max Verstappen. It's the form book that we've seen all day, is that you lead from pole position, you run away, you dominate the first part of the race, your teammate takes over, and then it's easy peasy, plain sailing from that point on. Will it be the same in this race? Well, we'll have to wait and see. The pit window's still not for another 7-ish minutes. Verstappen will obviously hand over to his teammate, but right now he's just doing all he can to pull away from his own teammate of Chris Lulham. It's kind of a bit of a counter to what we saw on Sunday, by the way. Obviously, we saw Coanda doing so well, taking a 1-2 in that. Unfortunately, their day is not going very well here as Enzo Benito for Redline going around the outside. This one could work out and he's going to make it stick. Here comes Johnny Guindy, just trying to pick up all of the pieces. Benito gets through. Logitech Gialtas Esports gets through, and that's a bit of a shame for Vayron.
Oh, but a bit of a touch between Guindy and Dunn, who I have to correct myself, not Australian. Alex Dunn, a young Irish karting driver, as there goes Sage Karen. Well, rally crossing was his weekend activity of choice, but that's not rally cross, that's straight into a tyre barrier.
And what is a pretty bad day for Coanda, pretty much sorts itself out, and I actually think that he will be done with the day because that car was too broken to even get moving again. So another one of the Coanda contingent dropped down the order. That is an enormous shame. Was going for a gap, and that was a interesting.
Yeah, well, that kind of sums up the season, not just the day for Team VRS for Coanda SimSport. Lulham, though, now puts in the fastest lap, goes 2/10 quicker than Verstappen out front, chasing down. And I've got to think, if I'm Max Verstappen, I stay in that car until the very end of the pit window, because with all due respect to Dominic Hoffman, he's not Max Benecke.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you've got to ask how hard are these two going to fight, and knowing Redline, very. They do like to leave their drivers to fight. It's one thing that we respect with, particularly with Redline and Coanda, is they know when to fight and know when not to, and when it's a race like this, they're just going all out. Like, the championship's settled, all of that stuff is settled. It's just here for prize money and top honor. Why would you just sit there and wait? You've got to go on the attack. One thing is for sure, though, is that Redline are pulling away, as once again we'll see RHG battling it out. Yubata trying to gather up a position, or rather dropping one. And unfortunately, going well there.
Trying to go around the outside, but you saw the rear end kicking around, even with the horsepower cut that these cars had. You need to be careful, don't want to get into the traction controllers. Looking on board with Hugh Barter as you work your way through Tower Bend. He is now behind Vayron, who did manage to hold on. Taylor Barnard, who had a great drive in heat number 2, now trying to close, but he's to the outside of Barter. Might get the door shut on him, and indeed, well, no quarter taken, and now Barnard will come under attack from potentially Alexei Nesov behind. It's all going on further down the pack. Pit stop window will open very, very shortly as well. Looking rearwards now down into Sunset Bend.
Yeah, let's see if Hugh Barter can keep the likes behind Taylor Barnard after that Heat 2 win. Did absolutely fantastic, but Jamie Fluke will be taking over. These teams down here, surely, as soon as that pit window is open, they are coming straight onto pit lane to get everything changed, to get the new driver in, and then to get going again. Like you say, those at the front, they'll just sit there, they'll relax, they'll be comfortable, but everyone else behind surely's got to go on the attack. I was only a little bit confused, by the way, between that battle, because I was confused to see 2 RHG drivers going out, because I forgot that we have 5 RHG cars in this race, all 5 of which are in that top 13. What a sensational day for Romain Grosjean's team. Hope he is watching at home, because this is great for them.
Yeah, George was saying that he expected maybe a little bit more from them, but they've turned it up at the end of the season, maybe a future VCO ProSim season. We will see RHG out in force, maybe even Romain Grosjean himself, who of course will be competing in the NTT IndyCar Series with Andretti Autosport next year, taking over from Captain America Ryan Hunter-Reay in the DHL car. Working their way in towards the pit stop window 3 minutes ago before we see cars onto the lane. Top 4 have separated themselves to the tune of 3 full seconds now. Gustavo Ariel has pulled a 2-second advantage to Enzo Benito as well. Not really been too much action out front, but I have no doubt that since the championship is done and dusted for Chris Lulham and Max Benecke, it's time to have some fun and to put on a show for us here in the commentary booth.
Yeah, come on, we want to see some nice hard racing between these two cars. Max Verstappen still leading from Lulham, but behind, I will say, Detulio's trying to get on the attack of Vildenez that's just sort of losing out a little bit. And I think Chris Lulham was also a little bit wide through Sunset, so potentially Lulham struggling to keep up at the moment as the Apex Racing team is dropping down the order. I think that is just naturally out of racing rather than anything dramatic happening to the car. Still sat on the rear end, but now trying to go around the outside of R8G. This would be a hard push to clear. Barter at T1 is going all the way around. Is there going to be contact? There's a brush between them and does get through. Nice move.
Oh, but that's Niels Koch in the MSI Esports car that went off the track and will lose out to Alexander Smoliar and then gets bundled wide. Who was that really forced him off the track? But you can immediately see the disappointment for the German and wearing the BS competition colors in his car. Very, very unfortunate for him. He's clearly not happy either.
Yeah, I think it was De Jong that got down the inside, so unfortunately, again, Coanda just getting involved in the mix as one of the R8G cars is having a bit of an issue there, at least on the timing tower. I did see it dropping down somewhat, but quite clearly, this is not Coanda's day, not Coanda's track. And
that's Barnard who is down. Was it contact with Taylor Barnard after Barnard had made that superb pass around the outside of turn 1. I was a bit worried for a second. I thought it was going to end in tears for not one, but both of them. We'll take a look now. No, it's with Alexei Nesov in the 34. Just outbreaks himself. Nesov tries the over-under, and well, the lightest of contacts, the 87 goes around.
Unfortunately, that's just how it goes in those scenarios. It only takes a little bit of a brush when you're on the limit of adhesion, and unfortunately was sent around there nice and light. I'm sure race control will take a very swift look at that as we get the word from them that pit window will open in 60 seconds. It does mean, though, that all of these drivers right now, they will miss the pit window this lap. It will be the next lap that it opens when we can see them enter the pit lane. I wonder how many will bite on the first time of asking.
And of course, the window itself starts at 15 minutes to go. Well, I should say 15 minutes left on the clock. And then closes 4 minutes later, in fact. So you do get a 2-lap window here because it's a long lap. It's not a short one where you get plenty of bites at the cherry. Behind Mitchell de Jong, by the way, some action going on as they work themselves into turn 3 on board with Felix Luding hunting down the Triton racing car of Alexander Smoliar, who was mixed up in the fight for the transfer positions coming to the end of his heat. Now in the fight for the final points paying positions, the final prize money paying positions at the closing stages of the championship.
Yeah, let's see what can happen in this battle. Nothing happening down to the hairpin, although nearly overdoing it just ever so slightly there was the 176 of Felix Luding, and it's so easy to do down into that hairpin. Smoliar able to hang on back with our race leaders as the pit window is open. You have to say these two are in a bit of a class of their own right now, and surely they will remain on the racetrack at least for another lap. Maybe Chris Lulham will come in and hand over the keys to Max Benecke, but Verstappen surely has to stay out on the racetrack at least for one more lap, continue on this great form and great pace. They will, like you say, they'll have 2 laps in this pit window. They're just not quite in line enough to make it 3 laps in the window. If they were a little bit faster and a little bit further around, then they would be able to make it 3 times in the window. But unfortunately, it is just the 2, which means it's either this lap or next lap. Verstappen in through Sunset. Is he going to be into the pit lane, though?
Nope, he's staying out there for sure. Now the question is, does Lulham peel off? Oh, so that's what I expected. Benecke, you got to get him in the car. We know Lulham is quick, but Benecke is in a class of his own, especially in this LMP2 car. Where will the 11 car feed out in terms of traffic? You can see pit lane, the entry exceptionally busy. Only a couple of cars electing to stay out there. Verstappen, Detulio, Ariel, Dunn, Spengler, as well as Alexei Nesov have stayed out there on track. Oh, and chaos on pit road entry.
Wow.
I said this was possible. Up and over. I think that was Norby Kiss in the Orion Race Team number 74 car. It is!
It certainly is. Norby Kish, oh goodness me, he's used to truck racing. If he was, he would have gone straight through that central reservation. The Orion race team, they'll be pretty much... Actually, no, I say that. I'm just looking back at it, there was contact on the rear end as well. So that's actually where the drama was. I thought he might have just overcooked it himself.
So what here? Oh, that's the Sim Racing Wiki car. That's the initial incident. What happened? Oh, he's going to roll back.
Goodness. Brakes, mate.
Yeah,
Brake.
You've got to get on the brakes, and one of the R8G cars gets mixed up in that. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. It's the 87, so that was Hugh Barter behind the wheel. We'll be handing over to Martin van Lozenoord. Oh boy, that's a damaged Delara LMP2 car.
Certainly is. You got a middle pedal for a reason, and unfortunately not used in that circumstance. That was a big shame, but you know, is what it is. That was a large flip, but I must say I was a little bit confused when we saw him spin around, and I was like, there's only one thing that can happen here, and yeah, it is a lack of usage on the brakes. Either way, these cars will all be into the pit lane this time by Max Verstappen. You'll see him hold this tighter line. You'll see him head to the way of the lane. Nicely done. And navigate it down, and most important thing to do now is not to speed, which is actually quite easy to do at Sebring.
Yeah, but unlike some of the other series I commentate on, at least we're in a car with a pit road limiter. Now, that's not to say all of these drivers use it. There are various tips and tricks to maximize the time that you can gain on pit entry, because it's so easy to use that limiter and to just lose a little bit of time. You can see Verstappen into the box, setting himself up for the exit for his teammate. There's rolling, I believe, one of the that might be the Orion race team car that went around. Verstappen, easy as pie, now steps out and is going to watch Dominic Hoffman take over from him.
And obviously we have to really focus on the location between the number 6 and the number 11 car. Our eyes are focused on the 6 that's in the pit lane. The 11 is just coming around sunset at the moment. Max Benecke behind the wheel. Hoffman behind the wheel of the 6. It's going to be tight at T1. Obviously, you lean a lot more towards the 6, but
I think Hoffman has this because, yeah, he's already released himself. The question is, Benecke will have his tires up to temperature and already has the speed. In fact, it might not be as close as we think. It's going to be Hoffman that will get the power down. It was really nicely done on the pit exit. But now, if you're Max Benecke, focus set forward, we're in for a treat, because I think Hoffman's going to want to try and hold off Benecke. Benecke is going to want to close off the championship winning season with another victory.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this has been a great stint for Redline. It's been a great season, though, from the number 11. We're kind of predicting them to at least finish first or second. That's where they've been in every single race this season. It's just which way round is it going to be? The number 11 having won earlier in the day. The number 6 had to do a bit of work to get into this race, though, and did the work indeed, and that is why it is leading at the moment. You have to say, with 10.5 minutes to go, though, this is surely going to be a 2-horse race. BS competition just a little bit too far behind.
No, and they've actually pulled away from the R8G car that was chasing them down. So good cycle for Dinez, who's handed over to Rainer Talvar, but well and truly out of the fight. I think if you're Benecke, you have to let Max Verstappen win this one, because he needs the $500 to pay off the $50,000 he got fined by the FIA for touching a rear wing.
Yeah, you've got to add to that. You need a little bit of pocket money, I'm sure. But I mean, to be fair though, I mean, it's the final race of the season, championship sorted. Come on, we got to see him race. We got to see him at least race, at least put on a show. Come on.
We do. But I think it's also fair to say this has not been as crazy as the heats would have, shown us that this was going to be.
This has actually been fairly tame, all things considered. I will say Yas Heat, Ross Woodford, has just got down the inside of the Team Redline car. That is for 6th place. Nice move from Woodford, but it is going to be returned, just catching them coming out of the final corner at sunset. And there is Gianni Vecchio, who has managed to pick the position back. Ross Woodford, though, is certainly not done yet. He's down the inside at T1, and is the Yas Heat car going to hang on? I'd have to say he's getting squeezed a little bit, but Vecchio should have the momentum. Yeah,
and he does indeed. Ross Woodford, Yas Heat, always quick in an LMP2 car, but Gianni Vecchio, who I think it's fair to say doesn't enjoy this as much as he does racing a GT car, but it is just that sort of championship, right, where you have a new challenge, you get to have some fun, and get to do it with some of the best in the business, both in Full Metal Motorsports, but in sim racing action as well. Confirmation as well. Drive-through penalty for the Sim Racing Wiki car. That was between Sindre Setsource and the contact with Norby Kiss in that Orion Race Team machine. So Oscar Mang and the Irishman has come down onto pit road to serve it. Behind these cars, by the way, here comes Przemysław Lemonek trying to get the move done on the Logitech Gioltas car. Woodford has a look, but just a little bit too far behind. It's side by side behind him. Altus on the inside will carry that momentum down into Tower Corner, but Lemonek wants to rip it away. Outside line gives you the momentum down in towards turn 15, and contact between the two of them. Lemonek into the gravel.
Yeah, he misjudged the turn back. I mean, going around the outside of Towers, always slightly considered as unwise.
That is a that is more than that's not a slap in the wrist. That's a stop and hold 30-second penalty for Norby Kiss in that 74 car. You said it. Use that middle pedal.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the harshest penalty we've seen, at least from what I've seen all season for Norby Kish. But I mean, you have to say, deservedly so. Battle for the race lead, though. Here comes Max Benecke to the inside at T1.
And he'll get the move done. Hoffman's going to try maybe the over-under, but not too hard in terms of the fighting there. We still got 7.5 minutes to go, so maybe we'll see some more action between the two Redline cars in the closing stages, but we thought Benecke would have the pace, and clearly he does have it. Vecchio and Woodford still squabbling it between the two of them, by the way. They're costing each other a full second last time around on track. 46.106 for Benecke. It's the fastest lap that he has done, only about a 10th off Rainer Talvar's fastest lap of a 46.002. Talvar, quickest car on the track last time around.
Now, I said it was a 2-horse race. Now, if that is the commentator's curse on that gap coming down, then I am okay with it, because at the moment, the BS competition car is flying. Now, if these two battle it out, the BS competition car will close in. It's all about now whether, to be perfectly honest, Dominic Hoffman holds position, sits behind the number 11, and just allows Max Benecke to do his thing.
It's coming down, though.
What would you do?
It's under 2 seconds for a moment. I think you have to be smart here and not fight too much. I don't think Hoffman has too much to fight with at this point in time. I just think Benecke is that good and that competitive in an LMP2 car that for Hoffman, who we know is quick. I'm not, again, I want to make sure Dominic Hoffman has my full respect. But Benecke is in that next level, the elite level, the level where Rogers, Sebastian Job, etc. live.
Yeah, like I say, you're looking at one of the very, very best in sim racing. And we've spoken before of all the young guns that are coming to take their crown in the next few years. There are plenty of them, of these new talents. But right now, when we list off those very, very best, Max Benecke is always, without a shadow of doubt, on that list. And so even if you're a 10th or 2 off of Max Benecke, you're still one of the fastest people in sim racing. But Benecke just always has that little bit of a gap. Whether it will come down on more towards the final moments of this race, obviously Slipstream does play a large part around here. We'll have to wait and see. Redline, though, focused on just hanging on to a top 2. Benecke is stretching that gap out. Every time we go through a corner, it's just 100th here, 1,000th there, but it all adds up over a lap here at Sebring. And BS competition, Rainer Talvar, got to say that his pace, the fact that he is as quick, if not quicker, than Benecke, amazing at the moment.
It was a 10.5 quicker for Talvar than Benecke last time around. So now that Benecke has got the move done, Talvar still quickest car on the track. It's not by much, but with 5 minutes left to go, is it going to be enough for Talvar to close at least on Dominic Hoffman? Ensure that Redline doesn't close off what has been an impressive 2021 VCO ProSim Series for Team Redline with a 1 and 2 finish. All the pressure on Rainer Talvar as they work themselves down to what will be 3 laps to go this time around at the line. Still waiting to see if there's some battles to go up and down through the field. I see Julien Soenen and Charlie Collins for RHG and Coanda separated by about a 10th and a bit of a second. Other than that, though, really, the gaps have opened up here.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a calm finale. Unfortunately, I'll have to say, I'd like to see a bit more drama, a bit more chaos, but everything's been a little bit calmer in this final race as everyone gets used to how things are going in the VCO ProSim, obviously in the final race of the season. That's always how it goes. Got to say as well, remember, with this pace, with this fantastic stuff that we're seeing from all of these drivers, it's a fixed setup. They're all driving the same thing right now. So if you're seeing someone faster than everyone else, it's because they're driving faster than everyone else. It's not because of a setup gimmick or anything like that. It is just flat out pace of the driver as we'll see the road from the view of Rainer Talvar. Once again, I'm catching on my other screen the battle between Charlie Collins and the RHG driver as there he goes back to the inside is Collins trying to get past Soenen, not able to pass yet.
2 drivers that will be fighting it out in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, and that kicks off at the start of 2022. Soenen, who was part of RHD Junior when he joined the team earlier this year, has now really grown leaps and bounds over the course of the past year. Really stepped up for Romain Grosjean Esports. Can't wait to see what he will do in the new Porsche 992 911 Cup car. Of course, it's going to be fascinating to see how the World Championship plays out, with a new car. Of course, very fascinating end to 3 incredible years with the old generation Cup car. Plenty of time for the new drivers and the new teams to work themselves up to speed on board with Charlie Collins as we work our way in towards Tower Corner. I think the first time that we've seen frustration on Charlie Collins' face across of 2021, Lewis.
Yeah, normally very, very calm, and of course was fairly calm, all things considered, on Sunday when he netted himself an extra 15k for racing in the BMW Sim GT Cup, finishing one position behind his teammate Josh Rogers. This time has been given the all clear from Commander to team up with Mitchell de Jong, and a fantastic lineup there. I mean, the battle here between Collins and Soenen, I mean, you're saying this about Soenen, like these are drivers that are those ones that are going to go and challenge Benecke and that lot in the future. Speaking of him, he's just at the fastest lap of the race. Collins,
45.858.
He's pretty quick, that Benecke guy, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the only driver to have dipped below the 46s other than Martin Kroenke, who I think that's not even the 93 car that set that lap time. I'll have to go and get confirmation of that, but flying lap time from your race leader. It was Martin Kroenke, confirmation that did put in that lap. So only 200ths of a second between Kroenke and Benecke in terms of fastest laps. One lap to go this time around, because with 1 minute 50 left on the clock, should be white flag in the air when Benecke takes to the start-finish line next time around.
Yeah, and then the battle for second position will be potentially fairly close coming into it. You see the top three in shot there after nearly half an hour's racing. Of course, the Team Redline car still leading 1 and 2. That's what they were aiming for, you know, coming into this race. They had a 1 and 2 in Heat 1, obviously not with the 6 and the 11. The 6 was in Heat 2. But it's always what they're aiming. I mean, if they could, they'd get a 1, 2, 3, 4. They're quite good at that around Sebring. But I think Reina Talvar might have something to say about the idea of that number 6 car finishing in second place. There's a bit of a gap to close down, but it is closing down almost more and more as the corners tick by. It's as if Talvar's getting faster and faster, or unfortunately for Hoffman, he's getting a bit slower and slower as the race is dragging on.
Well, Hoffman is slipping out of the draft of Mr. Benecke. Now 1.6 seconds the gap between first and second. Talvar 1.1 back. It will be one final lap to go, just under 6 kilometers for Reina Talvar to make a move to steal a red line 1 and 2 away. And after sweeping race weekend number 1 at the Styrian Mountains for Team Redline, as guess what, Benecke goes even faster at 45.761. They want to bookend the season with another victory. Of course, not another sweep, because Heat 2 did go to the Apex Racing team, but ultimately a season that has been all about Redline. Meanwhile, Redline Gianni Vecchio coming under fire from Ross Woodford.
Yeah, see if Woodford can get to the inside at 3 is quite close, but surely that would be a dive a little bit too far for the Yaz Heat driver. Redline, Vecchio hanging on. It might come down to the hairpin between these two. We saw them switch positions a little earlier in the race. Good drive off of 5 there from Ross Woodford, deep in the slipstream, running around Big Bend. He'll be close to making it a look down the inside. Obviously, Vecchio is going to hold that himself, and Woodford is going to commit on the brakes, squeezed a little bit. Vecchio should hang on, but the drive off from Ross Woodford again, and that's a nice straight exit from the hairpin. Might be able to make something stick into Cunningham.
Bumpy braking zone of turn 10. We've seen plenty of outside passes so far over the course of the evening. Woodford, though, not able to get onto the anchors late enough. Vecchio cuts him off and holds on to 6th position for now. Still a couple of moves to come. Tower Corner, we've seen some dives. I don't think Woodford's going to be close enough to stick it this time. Maybe it's going to come down to Sunset Bend.
Yeah, and that might be the same case. Well, I was actually wondering if it's going to be the same case with the 6 and the 89, but unfortunately they are too far apart. But surely someone is fancying a move down into Sunset, and Ross Woodford is in the prime position to do so. Final corner, though, Benecke is coming up to it.
It's been incredible for Redline in this 2021 VCO ProSim Series. They swept the weekend at the Red Bull Ring to kick things off. 2 victories to close things out. Our champions across the line, victorious in our final race of the 2021 VCO ProSim Series, and fastest lap once more, a 45.750. Benecke just can't help himself.
Oh, now that is a man at the peak of his powers. He is loving that right now. He's loving the 2021 VCO ProSim. What a sensational season from them, and what a way to cap it off. The number 11 car on top once more. Got to give a shout out though to Hoffman, who did a fantastic job to at least keep BS competition at bay when Reina Talvar was looking so fast in parts of that. And to be perfectly honest, I know those final couple of laps from Benecke were exceptional, but Talvar's pace for most of that stint was matching 10K Benecke.
It's almost like Benecke just had another gear to go up into.
Potentially. I hate it when drivers do that. You race against the very best, you think, oh, I'm doing a great job, and then suddenly it's like, bye, mate.
Well, here's our race results for the final time this season. Benecke Hoffman make it a Redline 1 and 2. BS Competition, the Zebras complete the podium. What a drive from Reina Talvar and Phil Denez. RAG started 4th, 5th, and 6th. They finished 4th and 5th with Quintin Violati and Vlad Kimichev through the top 5. Gianni Vecchio does hold off Ross Woodford in a drag race to the line, with the Altus Esports car in 8th, Redline 9th, and Keika Shube for BS Competition makes it 2 Zebras in the top 10.
Behind that, we've got our Heat 1 winner, Jamie Fluke for Apex Racing Team. Unfortunately, 11th place is all they could grab in the bonus, but then one of the RHG cars that started from inside that top contingent, 6th place down to 12th for Laurinec, unfortunately for RHG Esports. Julien Soenen, though, had a nice battle with Charlie Collins, who had risen up the grid with Mitchell de Jong from 29th up into 14th place. Behind them, Dominic Blyer for Triton. They just got themselves in after a fantastic Heat 2, had to really muscle their way through into 15th place. And Moreno Sarica for Williams Esports Razor, and then the SRC Movano Corsa car that started from further down the order, with Martin van Lozenoord for RHG Esports. Not a great day for RHG for some of their cars finishing further back, but a great day overall. All 5 of their cars inside the top 18. SimRC and Racecraft Esports in 19th and 20th.
One more of those weird combos. Yaltayan competing with Racecraft, who was fighting in the Dallara iRacing Grand Prix Championship. Jeremy Bouteloup in 21st with Urano 22nd. BS Competition and Ryan Bonneville 23rd with drive-through penalty for Oscar Mangan, dropping Sim Racing Wiki down to 24th. Arturo Melgar 25th with Martin Kroenke 26th. Mac Backham 27th, and the Orion Race Team, who caused a bit of chaos on the entry to pit lane, down in 28th positions. Niels Cott and Robbie Foley, early retirements from this race. Shame to see BS Turner having those sort of an issues at a track that they indeed do love to be in. Get some highlights of the action. Clean start for Redline, almost like they coordinated it and planned it out. Some 3-wide action as per usual across the line. But it was a great start to the race. It all came unstuck though, down into turn 5. Lhoek just tried to go deep under the brakes. That was very much of his own doing.
Yeah, and then making contact with the Racecraft car, and off was Brian Lockwood, unfortunately. There was BS Turner, spun around on the start-finish straight, just contact, and their day was basically ended in that one moment. But it wasn't certainly over then for everyone else who were racing. SRC Movano Corsa just trying to hang on from literally everyone else behind, and a superb move from RHG back to the inside. Brilliant stuff.
Really enjoyed some of the racing here. Not as crazy, although watching some of these highlights you wouldn't necessarily think it. There was Altus Esports just bullying the RHE car out of the way, and Sage Karam, well, he got bullied straight into the tyre wall. Took a while to finally come to an end, but day done for Karam there.
Yeah, unfortunately for Coanda, it wasn't their day. For RHG, it most certainly was. Fantastic stuff from them all day, getting all 5 of their cars right up the order. SimRC defending from the number 20, Mitchell de Jong, who was rising up after a poor qualifying. No lap onto the board. A bit of contact there, unfortunately, for one of the RHG cars. Hugh Barter spun around down into the hairpin. Wasn't the only car spun around this race. Did see a couple, but like you say, a bit calmer as Triton defend from SimRC, and RC went for a bit of a spin.
Yeah, that's what happened to Felix Luding. Then there was this. What can you say other than there's a brake pedal and you were meant to use it? We didn't get a look at the actual chaos on pit entry, but it went just about how you'd expect, and there was one of the RHG just getting pushed wide by Altus, and BS Competition taking advantage. Here was the switch for the lead, not even fought from Dominic Hoffman, Benecke to P1.
Yeah, and a superb drive, as we'll see Charlie Collins trying to attack Julien Soenen in a fantastic battle a bit further down the order. Then also Gianni Vecchio with Ross Woodford going toe-to-toe for the last couple of laps. At the front, though, you couldn't question him. The number 11 once again on top in the VCO ProSim.
And there's the smile from Benecke as he crossed the line to close things off to write the final chapter of our 2021 VCO ProSim Series. And we're joined by him once again, Max. Talking to you for the second time tonight. Big smile on your face. Great way to end the season.
Absolutely, yeah. Best season ending we could have hoped for. Both Max and Chris did a fantastic job in quali, putting those cars 1 and 2, and in the end we finished there. So yeah, not just a championship, but also the bonus race win, which is also very important for us. And the second place, obviously, also a good job by Johnny and Enzo in P6. So overall, very happy there.
give us a recap of the season. Of course, we talked about brake dragging being banned last time you were in this interview booth, but the one-lap qualifying, the track votes that are announced just before the races are about to start. There's so many interesting things about this championship that just make it fun, right? It's unlike what you have to deal with the World Championships, where there's hours and hours of preparation that goes into it. This is just show up, go fast, and have fun.
Absolutely. I totally love this format. It's not even maybe the best out there on iRacing at the moment, because you start driving on a Tuesday afternoon when you know the tracks, so like 3 hours before the race, and that's really the time you start. You don't drive before that because it literally makes no sense unless you really have to get to know the car a bit better. But overall, it's the best format. You just show up, you practice these 2 hours, and then you show what you can do, and we can still see that the field is very close. So talent is stacked, and it's just so much fun to drive, and especially up the front you have good battles. Overall, just fantastic that we have this. I'm always looking forward to drive it, especially this year, because we had the LMP2. So overall, just a great series, enjoying it a lot.
Been a fun 2021 for you too. I know the World Championship didn't swing in your favor, but Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland champion, so much success in the iRacing special events, not just for you, but the entire team. So much success in BMW Sim GT Cup. Yes, the finale didn't go your way, but some really strong performances both in the M8 and the M4. What are you looking forward to now in 2022 after you get a bit of a break first this off-season?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm just looking forward to the break. There's Cup of Nations still coming up. I'm looking forward to that one. But after that, I'm looking forward to the break, and then let's see next year. A lot of BMW 120 events again. Porsche Super Cup is coming. VCO has a lot of things planned. So looking forward to everything basically, and just hope that we can continue this year. Obviously, BMW Sim Live got taken out of our hand, but overall it was a brilliant year for us, and I just hope we can. Do the same next year. I'm pretty certain we can. So just looking forward to many more great moments with the whole team and personally as well.
No rest for the weary. Congratulations, Max, and can't wait to see what 2022 holds for you. But now Lewis is standing by with Max's teammate Chris Lulham, who really just showed that he's at the level of Max Benecke.
Yeah, I mean, a superb final race. What a way to end what has been a great season for you as a team. Talk us through the emotions in that final race, ending the season on such a high.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I mean, the quali lap itself, I mean, I think mine was pretty good. I couldn't have improved a huge amount on it, but still got pipped by Max just. No, I tried to hunt him down, couldn't quite get close enough with the dirty air, but no, I've really enjoyed the whole season, and we actually haven't finished outside the top 2 in all the races so far, so that's something to be proud of for sure.
It really is, especially on a competitive grid like this. Now, typically in sim racing, we see your teammates all practicing together weeks in advance of a race, and obviously with this, you can't practice until basically the day of. How do you kind of work as a team on that? Is there anything that you can learn from Max? Have you learned anything from Max across the season so far?
Yeah, from both Maxes you learn, you compare your lap times, you always have something to chase, you always have telemetry to chase. And you really learn a lot in those few hours before each race, where it's super intense, just hot lapping those one lap qualies where you really have to nail it in the race. Yeah.
And with 2021 coming to a close, is this the main highlight of 2021? I mean, you've had it's been a long year. We've all raced an awful lot. If this isn't the highlight, what has been the highlight?
For sure, this is the highlight for me. But no, I've had other special event wins alongside both Maxes, and I look forward to anything else that VCO will host next year. I'm sure it'll be just as good as this.
Cheers, Chris. All right, back to you, Arjuna.
Yeah, well, that's your 2021 VCO ProSim champions, Max Benecke and Chris Lulham. But we have a special guest standing by, someone I know a lot of you guys in our YouTube and Twitch have been waiting for. Ben and George have the F1 points leader, Max Verstappen, who took the time out of his week to come and join us for our final ride here today.
Yeah, absolutely. What a massive privilege to have Max Verstappen with us this evening. Max, 3 weekends on the bounce, traveling across the globe for Formula One. So much pressure involved in the F1 title hunt. Why come and play with us on a Tuesday on the most competitive esports series there is?
It was actually pretty funny. I mean, as you can see, I'm out of office. But
I was driving a bit of Jeddah, with the F1 car, and I got a text on Discord from Dominic, my teammate, because he didn't have a pro driver to join him for the race. So he sent me a text and probably wasn't expecting me to do it. But I was like, yeah, why not, mate? So I closed the game I was playing, and I went on to iRacing again, and just did a bit of an hour prep for the race, and thought, why not, help a teammate out.
Absolutely incredible and amazing pace as well, considering you really haven't had the seat time that many of the other guys around you have. Is that the reflection of the accessibility of this VCO Pro Sim Series, that you're able to do that?
I mean, of course, I've driven the car, so I know a little bit what's going on. It was just more like getting used to the setup of the car, which is a little bit different, of course, but it makes it equal, and I think that's good for everyone. And what is very nice as well is that the track only gets decided 1-2 hours before you actually do the race, and I think that is very healthy, because otherwise people will start to do like 50-60 hours to prepare for a race, so it was a lot of fun. I didn't expect it to go this well, but of course it's great for the team as well, to be up the front and basically dominate the event.
Nice effort.
Oh, George, I think, has got himself on the mute.
That can happen.
Sorry, I've caught some Ben syndrome there. Do apologise. Okay.
Can happen.
Yeah, it can certainly. Max, just want to ask, just want to talk about the transition of moving from should we say, a real life car, a proper car, single seater Formula One car, into this LMP2 on iRacing. How transferable are those skills, or do you have to sort of focus your mind onto a more central sim racing view, or are the skills transferable, I suppose, is the question.
Well, the car is very different. So yeah, your steering inputs, braking, the way you have to go on throttle because of also the traction control is quite different. But that's what I like. I mean, also in my off season time, I like to drive with different cars than Formula 1 cars, so GT cars. And this is another thing. I like to challenge myself and try different things. Because I think at the end of the day, it also helps you in Formula 1, and this is a perfect car for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you certainly seem to show your pace. I mean, obviously, it's always nice to finish in front, but obviously securing a P1 and P2 for Team Redline, the second one for this evening. How much does that mean to the team? I know you like to lead from the front. I know you like to be in front, but still, how massive was that for the team today?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't mind to be first or second. I just want the team to win, and I think this year we've won a lot. So we had a really, really good and strong year. The funny thing was, I think before qualifying, I told Chris I was going to be in front of him. Maybe it made him a bit nervous. But it was good. I had a lot of fun. It's a very cool track as well to drive, because on the bumps you can really make a difference in the way you position the car. That 1-2 was perfectly executed.
Oh, well done. It was a great performance, and certainly we'll hope to see you again very, very soon in the VCO series.
I'll try my best to join again.
Thank you.
Max, thank you very, very much for joining us, and what a privilege to see a man of that caliber joining us and performing at that level as well. We wish Max Verstappen the very best for the last couple of rounds of the World Championship, and perhaps more importantly, very best in the real world Simi Award, which he is up for, of course, against the likes of Dennis Lind and James Baldwin. Sometimes I'm a little bit sceptical about Max Verstappen for that award, but coming here tonight after what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, after just his schedule the last couple of weeks, credit to the man, and credit to his association also, Arjuna, I suppose, with Redline. You can feel him flying that flag, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. He is a big fan of everything that goes on, and I've heard big supporter of the team behind the scenes and really motivates the guys and gets them going. So great to have him on board. And he's been busy in sim racing competition this year. I mean, I think back to the first couple of rounds of the BMW Sim GT Cup where him and Rogers came together on multiple occasions. Just shows that he's not here to make up the numbers. He's here to be competitive. That's what all racing drivers want to do.
Yeah, I wonder whether when Senna was asked about his greatest competitor, and he talked about a karting driver he raced with 24 years before he was a Formula 1 driver. I wonder whether Verstappen compares the likes of Rogers to Hamilton. It would be an interesting question for him. But it was another Team Redline team that got victory in the VCO ProSim Series this year. Maximilian, Benecke and Chris Lulham are your 2021 champions. They receive $1,500 as a bonus to the money that they have already earned, and so that should be a decent check of a couple of grand for them for the rest of the year. And also these wonderful trophies. And these are not only 2 real trophies that will be sent to them, but also digital versions. VCO has teamed up with an all-new platform called Tokens to enter the world of NFTs. And for those of you who are skeptical about these, Tokens uses Flow blockchain. And this architecture leads to a dramatic increase of the blockchain throughput whilst eliminating the mass incentive of participants to mine blocks and therefore use unnecessary electricity. Since Flow uses proof of stake validation instead, therefore it is far more ecologically friendly. These digital trophies exist just once and only belong to our 2 championships winners, Benecke and Lulham. More news on this will follow over the course of the coming weeks, thanks to the partnership between Tokens and VCO ProSim. Well, that is about it, guys. Big best memories of the season, Arjuna.
I've loved all of it. I mean, I really thought that Road America last time was some of the best racing that we've seen. Some great tracks as well. I mean, every single round is delivered. Ultimately, though, it's a season where Redline really showed that they may not always have the luck, but when they do, they are one of the most dominant forces across of all of sim racing.
George, your first time with us at VCO ProSim. How have you enjoyed your experience?
I've loved it, and do you know what? I think probably my biggest highlight is joining you 3 lads as well as part of this panel. It's been a pleasure to work with you guys, and a pleasure to work with VCO as well for my first time, and certainly covering an event such a so successful and so amazingly just prominent nowadays in the world of sim racing is phenomenal. I would be lying to you if I said that I didn't think that Max Verstappen interview was a highlight as well. That's the first for me, so I'm thrilled, honestly.
I thought you might like a couple of questions with the main man, especially from an F1 background. And he was just so chilled, right? There's some times where you interview Max in a real-world environment that it's difficult, but tonight he was properly in chill mode. Lewis, it's a mark of VCO, isn't it? To see names like that, to see names like Kanan, Antonio Felix da Costa, Sete's Camera, champions around the world joining us week in, week out to go racing in the sim racing world. It has been, as it was in season 1, just an incredible experience.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the sort of the removal of the super serious. Whilst we do have prize money, championships, trophies, etc., the idea with the VCO ProSim is to attack it from almost a more casual, more fun aspect, attacking it. It's the same thing we did in the first season. We even had the fun series as well. And that is what kind of entices some of the real world drivers to jump in, because they're racing week in and week out in the real world. The last thing they want to do is put in 3,500 laps of practice and fall asleep whilst mid-race. They don't want to do that. We want to see them racing. We want to see them out there attacking it. And that's exactly what the ProSim's done for the last 2 seasons. I literally cannot wait until the next one.
Before we get to the next one, which will be around this time next year, there is so much that VCO are offering you for your delectation. The Sim Awards coming up around Boxing Day, I think, is when we put the live show out, around Christmas. But the voting will finish relatively soon, so make sure you get your votes in at v-c-o.info/semi-vote and get all of your preferences in before that vote closes, including the brand new Oval Award, and you can choose your best commentator out of the VCO ProSim lineup, because all 3, excluding me, are voted for best commentator to try and steal that award off Mr. Lewis McGlade, who won it last year. That is what's coming up at the end of December. But before then, right before then is Twitter Spaces. Head over to Twitter Spaces right now, and you can join George and Lewis with Florian Hasper, our big boss, chatting all about this event. If you want more VCO action, the Cup of Nations is happening. The BenQ Mobilis Cup of Nations is happening the first week of December here on VCO, 4th and 5th of December. And finally, right now, we are kicking off the World EX final round at the Nürburgring, and there's something like 7 drivers that can still win that, with Lasse Sorensen, main man favourite for the championship title. So switch channels, head over to World EX, fly the flag for our R Factor 2 competitors, and we will see you next November for the next VCO Pro Sim series, but I'm sure we'll see you before. Thanks very much for joining us. Bye-bye.